willing to go to Chicago on that bus. Police are still looking for a suspect in the fatal shooting of a teen in Highland Park. Officers responded yesterday in the 2300 block of Green Bay Road around 11:30 a.m. The 16-year-old victim was taken to a local hospital, pronounced dead. Investigators say the boy was walking on the sidewalk and was approached by another male on a bike who pulled a gun and shot him. Larry Snelling is Mayor Brandon Johnson's selection for Chicago's next police superintendent. Johnson made it official Sunday, naming Snelling to the post, one of 3 finalists named by the Community Commission for Public Safety. The CPD veteran is a 28-year member of the force and is moving over from his role pending his approval by the full city council as chief of counterterrorism. Chicago police investigating a string of robberies on the city's north and northwest sides. The 8 incidents happened between 4 and 6 a.m. Police say between 3 and 6 men were involved in each incident. Officials with the United Center say Saturday night's WGCI Summer Jam was cut short for safety reasons. There were reports of an active shooter during the concert. Chicago police confirmed to us there was no active shooter. The department is investigating several other incidents that happened in the event, including theft of merchandise. 2 former assistant baseball coaches and the director of baseball operations at Northwestern University are set to file suit against the school and several additional parties as soon as today. The complaint alleges charges of racism, sexism, and egregious conduct. The coaches reported NCAA violations to the university and seeks compensation in excess of $50,000. As the battle over sporting rifles, that some anti-gun activists call assault weapons, begins to heat up in Illinois, Second Amendment supporters are coming to the aid of a West Suburban firearms dealer. A rally and fundraiser was held Sunday at Law Weapons in Naperville. The owner there saying he's lost 85% of his business since both the state and Naperville banned the sale of so-called assault weapons. Meantime, Governor J.B. Pritzker signed House Bill 218 over the weekend, meaning the Illinois firearm industry can be targeted with legal action. Robert Bevis, owner of Law Weapons, says the measure is another example of the governor enacting an infringement.
Look, automobile manufacturers are not responsible for people that drive drunk and crash their cars. You know, we can't be held responsible for the way somebody uses a firearm if it's in a nefarious way.
The measure will be challenged in court. Meantime, on Friday, a divided Illinois Supreme Court upheld the state's assault weapons ban. The ruling upholding Illinois' gun and magazine ban by the Illinois Supreme Court will likely not be the last word, as AM 560's Greg Bishop reports.
State Representative Dan Calkins said he was disappointed after Friday's ruling against the case. While the pending federal challenge focuses on the Second Amendment, Calkins' challenge focused on equal protections.
I'm a FOID card holder. Why am I treated differently from another FOID card holder? Well, because that FOID card holder happens to be in law enforcement. Why is that any different than me?
Attorney Thomas DeVore said he still plans to pursue his state-level cases consolidated in Effingham County. While temporary restraining orders for thousands of his clients could be dissolved soon, he plans to mount evidence to prove the equal protections argument.
So what they said is, Dan Calkins, you didn't bring us any facts to show that you are similar to these exempt categories. So for that reason, you lose. Well, we're going to build that case, in our case, if it proceeds.
I'm Greg Bishop.
A local political science professor says mainstream support in the U.S. for political violence is on the rise on the left.
And it's not just about Oath Keepers, Proud Boys. It is now breaching into the mainstream, and we're seeing the consequences of that.
Speaking on CBS's Face the Nation, University of Chicago professor Robert Pape says he's conducted a survey in which nearly 50 million Americans believe use of force is justified regarding, for example, a second Trump presidency. 30 million supported using force to prevent the former president from returning to the White House. Cubs gave up 5 runs in the second inning of an 11-4 loss to Toronto at the Rogers Center, and Jamison Taillon was tagged with a loss.
We're on the right track. We've put a lot of good work in. I don't think this is a reason to completely panic. Obviously would have liked to have thrown better and put us in a position to, when I feel like I put us in a hole. But I'll just regroup, reset, and move on.
Cubs 3.5 back of Milwaukee, a half game back of Miami for the final National League wild card spot. And the Cubs host the White Sox tomorrow night. Justin Fields and the Bears beat the Titans 23-17 in a preseason win Saturday. Lucas Glover's celebrating back-to-back wins on the PGA Tour, winning the St. Jude. The news, a service of Protect and Grow with Tim Stearns. Saturdays at noon, enjoy weekly discussions to a secure retirement. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Make sure that you never miss a day of Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson when you subscribe to the Chicago's Morning Answer podcast, presented by Signature Bank. Listen to the entire show each day on demand with limited commercial breaks. You can subscribe today for free at 560theanswer.com and click on podcasts or search for Chicago's Morning Answer on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
So what's the trouble here, mister? I don't understand what happened. I checked my stuff in Chicago, and when we landed in L.A., I came to baggage claim, and there it was, my $10,000 Canoma analyzer in pieces, completely trashed. Just the facts, buddy. What did you have it backed in? Well, just the box it came in, but there was all this foam and thick cardboard. It looks sturdy enough. That's what they all think, pal, till it's too late. What am I gonna do now? My boss is gonna kill me. Here's some good advice for you. The next time you transport anything valuable, put it in a Star case, leading manufacturer of custom reusable shipping cases. So where do I get a Star case? Now you're getting smart, bub. You can find everything you need to know to order one direct at starcase.com or call 800-822-STAR, where a friendly, knowledgeable sales engineer will be glad to help you design the custom case you need. That's starcase.com or 800-822-7827.
Rick here from Forever Remodeling. You probably heard me talk about how our unique design-build process removes the normal problems of hiring a design and construction company separately. But just don't take my word for it. Listen to these customer reviews. Kelly W. says, from consultation to design to construction, my remodel flowed seamlessly. Adity J says, we were thrilled to have a full-service remodeling firm take all the guesswork out of our project. And Caesar V says, Forever Remodeling made what could have been a very stressful project extremely easy for us. They finished on time and did amazing work. Kitchens, bathrooms, basements, additions, whole house remodeling, whatever you need, our start-to-finish process delivers stunning results without the hassles, headaches, and stress. For a free consultation, call Forever Remodeling at 847-809-3355 or visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4everremodeling.com.
Back to school week. 5:11 on AM 560, The Answer. Watch out for the kids. Watch out for the buses. Watch out for the roads in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center this morning. Edens, Kennedy, Ike, and Stevenson off and running. Inbound Dan Ryan. Gummed up inbound 35th to the Stevenson due to a much earlier accident. Disabled vehicle on the tri-state right shoulder. It's southbound right before the Hinsdale Oasis. Traffic, a service of ComparionInsurance.com. Their agents are local insurance experts. They can find you the right insurance at the right price. Comparion Insurance Agency. Local agents, expert advice. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy starts next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with our AccuWeather meteorologist, Steve Williams.
A flood watch in effect this afternoon. Periods of rain, thunderstorm. The high today 72. Partly cloudy, breezy rain tonight, low 62. And then breezy tomorrow morning, a shower in spots, and then clouds and sun. The high tomorrow 77. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560. The Answer.
Thank you, Steve. 71 at O'Hare, 72 Lakefront, 72 Midway, 67 in Lansing. Your Lake Michigan water temp this morning, 72. Your next news update is at 5:30. And Chicago's Morning Answers starts next on AM 560, The Answer.
Balance of Nature's fruits and vegetables in a capsule, changing the world one life at a time.
I'm a very, very skeptical person, so I think even if it had started working sooner, I was like, no, it can't be just balance of nature. Till I finally gave in and said, you know what? I think it's the balance of nature. So somebody will say, oh, I noticed this, or you look really good today, or you know, such and such, and I go, I know, it's the balance of nature. I have fingernails that I've never had before. They're long and they're strong and they're wow.
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first preferred order with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. That's 1-800-246-8751. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
This decade is looking like the worst one to retire or be retired in. For more than 30 years, Bob Carlson's Retirement Watch has been helping Americans invest, protect, and grow their assets. Subscribe to Retirement Watch and you'll get 3 months of Bob Carlson's Retirement Watch newsletter, 5 model portfolios, 5 free reports covering issues like estate planning and annuities to help you protect your money from the government and grow your nest egg. All for just $19.95. Sign up today at yourretirementwatch.com. yourretirementwatch.com.
Cable news. Noisy, out of touch, on repeat. Tired of all the lookalikes? So are we. Salem News Channel is here to change the game. Streaming 24/7, free on your TV with the greatest collection of conservative voices. Home to Dinesh D'Souza, Andrew Wilkow, Brandon Tatum, and more. Like you, we say what's wrong and what's right. Unfiltered and unapologetic. Salem News Channel. We're the answer to the mainstream media. Learn more at snc.tv.
A great smile can make you feel happy and confident. So when you consciously conserve your teeth, that glowing smile will show through. At Best Dental Group, Doctors Economos, Gavalis, and their staff are ready to help you create that perfect look or maintain the one you have now. Along with general dentistry, Best Dental Group is a multidisciplined practice with an orthodontist, periodontist, and prosthetic specialists on site. They use the newest breakthroughs in dental technology, such as titanium implants, Invisalign clear braces, and laser treatments. Don't let fear get in the way. They can recommend sedation to make your experience as comfortable as possible. Best Dental Group is located in historic downtown Bartlett and is a multilingual office. Call 630-830-4930. That's 630-830-4930. Or visit bestdental.org. Best Dental Group, sharing your conservative values and helping you to conserve your teeth.
When your home or business has an insurance claim, the next step is very important. The claim process with insurance can be tedious, hard to understand, and difficult to navigate. You need someone working for you. You need a licensed claim adjuster. Why? The insurance company will send out their inspectors that work for them, get paid by them, and represent them, not you.
This is Dan Lights from Crosscom. We inspect your property, file your claim, negotiate the damages, and maximize your settlement with your insurance company. If we complete the repairs approved by your insurance company, our service is free. Crosscom Public Adjusters has turned denied claims into approved claims. We've also increased insurance claims anywhere from 23 to 1,000%. We are licensed by the Department of Insurance and work in Illinois, Northwest Indiana, and Southern Wisconsin. Crosscom Public Adjusters, 630-871-5500. Online at crosscominc.com. That's crosscominc.com. Crosscom, building trust for over 20 years.
Have you been struggling to find an easy, safe, and secure document scanning solution for Salesforce.com, Microsoft 365, SharePoint, or OnBase by Highland? Your struggle is now over and it's time to get your documents and operations into the 21st century. With IoT Smart Connected Scanning, It's easy to turn physical paper into digital documents and have them directly uploaded to the cloud with IoT Smart Connected Scanning from IDT. And you don't need a degree in computing or IT to make it happen. Using QR code technology uniquely configured for your specific business, anyone can set the IoT Smart Connected Scanning device up in 5 minutes or less, saving your organization money and valuable time. Remote employees can even capture documents and send them safely and seamlessly. Organize documents efficiently and securely with IoT Smart Connected Scanning from IDT. To see a demo or to order now, go to ready4idt.com. That's ready4idt.com. Use promo code SMART and receive 10% off your order. IDT, putting paper in its place.
When you're serious about your concealed carry training and education and are ready to learn from an active police officer with a teaching degree, check out Illinois Concealed Carry Training in Midlothian. You'll learn safe, responsible firearm use, home defense planning, conflict avoidance, situational awareness, and how to remain physically, morally, and financially safe in the event you must use your firearm in self-defense or the defense of another. Weekday and weekend classes available.
I'm Sergeant Gary Carr, police firearms trainer and the owner of Illinois Concealed Carry Training. We'll arm you with what really counts, knowledge and training. All concealed carry curriculums are not created equal. This may be the single most important decision you'll ever make for yourself and your loved ones. Choose between 3 and 16-hour classes that are available both weekdays and weekends. We are your one-stop for concealed carry classes, fingerprints, and legal defense plans.
Register for a class today and get 10% off class fees with promo code AM560. Visit IllinoisConcealedCarry.com. That's IllinoisConcealedCarry.com.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded. Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560 The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So the era of the Rona Busters is officially over. Lori Lightfoot, triple threat, you may remember, was de-elected, and now BLM Brandon, her successor, has sidelined your gal pal, Rona Buster sidekick, Allison Arwady, public health chief. She gone.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro, answer line 64636. Type in DA, then a quick comment. She did have the onions, Dan, to come on the show. She called in.
It's true.
And but she
Give her credit for that.
She did a lot of things, of course, that frustrated me, but she was the first person, like public health official or leader of Chicago, to suggest that kids go back to school. I'll never forget, and I don't know if we can find the audio, but she interviewed her 7-year-old nephew and her sister. They sat down because they do these Tuesdays with Awardy. I'm sure you tuned in on Twitter. And she talked to him, and he talked about how he wants to go back to school. And she had all this data because she always had files with her about how the reopening of Catholic schools. No teachers have died. A few have gotten COVID, but they were okay. No one had to be hospitalized. But the CTU couldn't stand that, because she wasn't saying what they wanted. They never wanted to go back to school.
Yeah. Well, that's all well and good. That's all well and good. She was a COVIDian. She beclowned herself, getting all gussied up as a Rona Buster, making this political, lampooning offhanded remarks that Trump made, however misconstrued, however flippant, unnecessarily flippant. She became a political figure, not a public health figure, as so many of them did during the height of COVID. And for that, she was just another city of Chicago embarrassment. I get that this is a unique sort of a coalition of the critical when it comes to Arwady. Conservatives like me and socialists like BLM Brandon and his crew, because Arwady didn't completely always toe the line that CTU set. but that doesn't mean that she was some admirable figure, because she wasn't. And I do appreciate that she came on the show as well to have a back and forth, and we had a good conversation with her. But she was wrong about so many things, as the people she was taking her lead from were wrong about so many things at the federal and state level. And she embarrassed herself with this Rona Busters routine that her and Gal Pal Triple Threat did. And that's how she's going to be recalled.
Yeah, I remember when we brought it up to her, and she said, "Come on, Amy." That was her response.
Right,
said,
come on, what?
I said, "Do you regret dressing up as a, Halloween is for children. Do you regret dressing up as a Corona Buster with Mayor Lightfoot?"
Well, it's not even that. It's not even, it's I just like have fun. I dress up at Halloween and whatever. No. You politicized it. You dressed up for the purpose of politics, because that's all Triple Threat played, and you went along with her. And that's on you, because you're a medical doctor, you're allegedly a public health professional, and you made an arse of yourself. You expect that from politicians like Triple Threat.
But
if you wanted to separate yourself from her, let's just get the epitaph on Arwadi straight before we start lauding her. Oh, she didn't open mental health clinics as fast as the Marxists wanted. Oh, she didn't toe the CTU line, and so she was this independent figure. No, she wasn't actually. No, I'm sorry, she wasn't.
Text message, Dan and Amy, she's the absolute worst. Nothing positive about her. She knowingly, illegally forced our kids to mask and forced healthy kids to miss school because they were, quote unquote, close contacts. And kids committed suicide because of her policies. Kids can't read because of her. She's evil to the core.
Well, there was never any, in retrospect, this was a poor choice. In retrospect, we could have done this better. There was no, we talk about no COVID amnesty. She didn't ask for any. She's not reflecting on all that transpired under her watch and at her direction and saying, yeah, that maybe was a little bit too much, or yeah, it turns out that the data doesn't support this position, and so forth. We don't hear any of that from her any more than we hear any of that from any other sort of city or big city or state public health official, particularly in the blue states, or big city mayor. So no quarter for Allison Arwadi. I'm sorry.
This happened too after the Chicago Board of Health urged Mayor Johnson to retain her. And then on Friday at 5 p.m., she got the email that it was over.
Mm-hmm. And then she did the whole, I reflect fondly, and my top priority was always caring for the public health of our great city and our great residents, and that whole routine, which I find sort of the last layer of insult.
Public health continues to be my passion. Yes,
I'm so interested in her passions. Not really. You mentioned her potential replacement, Eric Reinhardt. No, it's not.
That's what I thought.
It's not Lake County State's Attorney Eric Reinhardt.
Is it his cousin?
No, because it's spelled differently.
Okay, well then, all right, fine.
It's some academic fraud.
Self-proclaimed prison police guy. He's now exposed for lying, right? Didn't he say he had his
prison
PhD?
police guy? You mean prison police abolitionist?
Abolitionist, excuse me.
Yeah, not guy. Abolitionist. Yeah. So next knucklehead up, that would be Eric Reinhardt, who already is apologizing for misrepresenting the completion of his PhD. He's running around saying, I'm a PhD. Then after people started looking into his record, his credentials, he issued this public apology. I am writing to publicly apologize for misrepresenting the completion of a PhD on my personal website for a period in summer of 2021. Misrepresenting on your personal website.
What?
I think it was on your Twitter handle, too.
It was. I mean, he said that he was the lead researcher for the World Bank.
Well, that's a separate
That's a
claim.
separate thing, but they're now saying the World Bank is denying that he was a lead researcher.
On the PhD, I expected to complete my PhD before I began a medical residency, but I didn't.
So
I always expected to do this, but I didn't do it. So that's close enough. It's like the old Fred Stoller joke. I'm a college graduate. You can't say you're a college graduate if you don't complete college. What do you mean I can't say it? I can say it. Well, I can't. I'm a college graduate. Oh, God, 2 credits short. If only I had gotten those 2 credits. No, I can lie about it, of course.
People lie all the time and say they graduated and they're exactly 2 or 4 credit shorts. So they never really got their diploma. But this guy, I mean, come on. Her replacement's going to be worse. That's what I'm concerned about.
I'm deeply, it's of grave concern as if this person is directing anything other than following political orders, just like Al-Wadi did. I am deeply embarrassed by this. I did not intend to mislead people and have made no secret of my delayed PhD completion. Well, but
you got busted.
Well, you sort of did make a secret of it because you didn't.
Because he lied. Just say I lied.
Or
it's not a typing error.
I publicly apologize. I have also now learned of a new accusation that I have falsely claimed a role at the World Bank Research Group. This is not true. The accusation is that I claim to be lead of the Data and Evidence for Justice Reform program.
Oh my God! Of course.
I've never claimed that following instructions from the head of the program. I never claimed that. Following instructions from the head of the program, I identified myself as lead health researcher, lead health and justice system researcher, following the publication of a popular article with a byline that referenced WBRG role that drew the attention of senior leadership at the World Bank. My supervisor was informed that lead researcher is a title reserved for salaried staff employees of the bank and not people on a consultant-based research contract like my own. An arrangement that's very common. I was subsequently instructed to change my title to principal investigator, as that was compatible with my specific contracted role. As I did, it's so fascinating listening to these lifelong bureaucrats talk about their Orwellian titles. I wasn't a lead researcher, but this is consistent with the scope of work. But since I was a contract employee, it would have been more appropriate that I be called a principal investigator. But that was in no way an attempt to mislead. I wasn't trying to claim lead researcher while I was just a principal investigator. Who the hell cares? We know what you are. You're a big government functionary, not a public health professional. Holy God. Shut up. Stop talking. You call this a correction of the record? I'm even more skeptical of him after his apology.
I want to, Dr. Wardy is former Mayor Lightfoot's personal physician, so I wonder if she's going to keep that
God,
job.
what an ugly job that is. Oh.
312-642-5600 is our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is Reinhardt. Well, you know what? We'll come back and talk about it a little bit more before we move on, because I can only take so much of going over Eric Reinhardt's CV. Eric Reinhardt's view on medicine and you won't be surprised, he's a Marxist, the revolution that's required in medicine these days. Doctors like to think of themselves as good people, but they're really not. Actually, he's right about that to some extent. 538.
But now let's head straight into that newsroom and welcome back Mike Scott. Good morning, Mike.
71 degrees at 5:31, and there's a flood watch up for much of our listening area, but beginning at 10 a.m. through midnight tonight. Officials in Maui County say the death toll from the Lahaina wildfire is now up to 93. Search crews are reportedly using dogs to look for remains in the wreckage. 3% of the destroyed area has been covered so far. Hawaiian Governor Josh Green posted a video update on the situation just this morning, saying the destruction and misery is widespread, and he also said several agencies will need to work together.
U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is already beginning to view this site not just as a disaster, but as a long-term recovery. They will be helping us in partnership with active military and our reserves and all of our partners. They will be active in the deconstructing of the disaster area, and we'll have to remove the debris.
Early estimates say those fires caused nearly $6 billion in damage. A Hawaii congresswoman who represents Maui is calling the apparent siren failure during the wildfires tragic.
Everybody who has ever lived in Hawaii knows the warning sirens because that is our first line of defense.
Speaking on CBS, Jill Takuda added that electricity outages and lack of cell phone coverage in many areas also contributed to many people not getting advance warning signals. The attorney for Hunter Biden says a 5-year investigation has shown, in his opinion, no evidence that President Biden was involved in any of his son's business dealings. Also appearing on CBS's Face the Nation, another attorney for Biden, Abby Lowell, emphasized the investigation was ordered by and conducted by officials appointed by former President Trump.
That had to be part of what the prosecutor has already looked at, as well as every other false allegation, whether it's corruption or FARA or money laundering.
In other news, we're following at 5:33. 8 are injured after a shooting in downtown Memphis. It happened around 2:30 yesterday morning. Victims between the ages of 19 and 54. GOP presidential hopeful Chris Christie believes former President Trump will sign a so-called loyalty pledge to get himself on a debate stage.
He might not also, but I would not be the least bit surprised if he did. This is about Donald Trump, keeping the attention on Donald Trump.
Speaking on ABC's This Week, the Nebraska judge is ruling in favor of pro-life laws and gender-affirming care bans. The state passed the bans back in May, combining both bans together in a last-minute decision. Some pro-abortion groups challenged the bill, arguing it violated state law that doesn't allow bills with more than one subject. Toyota recalling nearly 170,000 new model Tundra pickup trucks to fix a major problem with a fuel line. There's a potential risk of a fire if a faulty fuel tube runs up against the vehicle's brake line. Police are still looking for a suspect in the fatal shooting of a teen in Highland Park. Larry Snelling is Mayor Brandon Johnson's selection for Chicago's next police superintendent. Chicago police are investigating a string of robberies on the city's north and northwest sides, 8 incidents happening between 4 and 6 a.m. Chicago sports, Cubs lost to Toronto 11-4, while the Sox were beaten by the Brew Crew 7-3. The news, a service of Dan and Amy 24/7. Around the clock, all day, every day. Listen now, Dan and Amy 247.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
2nd, 2020 marked the 100th anniversary of the first commercial radio broadcast. We're still here, and we're bigger and better than ever. You can still listen to us over this great radio station, but now there are no limitations. Your smartphone is now your smart radio. Listen to us online on the app, tunein.com, iHeartRadio, and Odyssey.com. Your smart speaker can find us too. With radio, there is no separation anxiety. We're always on. AM 560, The Answer.
You can't live forever, but your legacy can. For over 185 years, families have trusted Catholic Cemeteries of Chicago, with 47 locations throughout Cook and Lake counties, to set their legacies in stone. A prepaid cemetery plan locks in today's prices and safeguards against rising inflation. Visit CatholicCemeteryChicago.org or call 708-236-5490 to schedule a free consultation today.
This is Jerry Boyer for Townhall.com. They call Disney the Magic Kingdom, but currently its biggest trick is making $900 million disappear, as losses from a string of flops pile up as high as its fairy tale castle. Speaking of fairy tales, the live-action reboot of Snow White looks like it's going to be yet another edgy, subversive reboot of a classic. Want to surprise us? Stay true to a classic storyline. Or create characters who are interesting, not just box checkers for the identity factory. Stop pandering by eliminating phrases like ladies and gentlemen. And for goodness sake, stay out of political fights with Disneyland's home state. How much brand destruction and stock market underperformance is it going to take to rouse the real Sleeping Beauty, Disney's board of directors, from its slumber and out of the tower of wokeness that it's trapped itself in? It doesn't look like it's happening anytime soon.
Publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu.
O'Reilly Auto Parts Loaner Tool Program has more than 80 specialty loaner tools available to help you with your next repair. Refundable deposit required. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today.
5:37. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. A service of Salem Surround, providing your business with industry-leading digital marketing strategies designed to surround your target audience and drive action. SurroundChicago.com. Kennedy inbound, now 22 from O'Hare into the Burn Circle interchange. 26 on the inbound I-390 to the old post office. Accident right shoulder in the locals. Inbound on the Ryan near 35th. 13 minutes in and climbing from 95th into the Burn Circle interchange. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. A cooler day ahead. Periods of rain, maybe a thunderstorm. Watch out for that flash flooding. High 72. 71 right now. Next news at 6. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. We're talking about the ouster of Rona Buster sidekick Allison Arwady, former city public health director. So the era of the Rona Busters is over. Remember it fondly. In addition, we, of course, Mike Scott reported it too, we've got a new Chicago police superintendent. We'll talk about Superintendent Snelling with Eugene Roy, former chief of detectives, at the top of the 8 o'clock hour, get his perspective on that selection. But just on the public health piece, just staying on this for a minute, since COVID had such an impact on Chicagoland as it did the rest of the country, the response to COVID, of course, is what I mean. Allison Arwady, you had something that you wanted to remind people of in your many exchanges with her.
Well, she said that, she admitted to coercion, basically. Remember with the vaccine mandate, she was leading the charge.
If you impose a mandate, it's hard not to admit to coercion.
Exactly.
Do you think vaccine mandates are working? Yes. Why? What makes you think that? We've seen, a couple things. We've seen a nice uptick actually in those 18 to 29 and 30 to 39, and we collect data actually at the sites that the health department is running. We talk to folks about why did they decide now is their time to finally get a vaccine a year in. And we are hearing actually quite a lot. Like some of the reasons why people are telling us right now is the time they're getting vaccinated. A big one is that they want to be able to do some of these things.
Yeah, like go to a gym or a movie theater or a restaurant or live their lives.
I mean, Arwady seemed like a nice enough lady, like a reasonable enough person. But again, she was a vaccine absolutist. She did not, like all the COVIDians, she fell into all of the traps. She recited all of the talking points, all of the refrigerator magnet cliches, was a cheerleader for all of the terrible policies from shutdowns to mandates that she was just discussing. And for that, she has to be held accountable. That's on her permanent record. We were talking also about her potential replacement, this Eric Reinhardt. Listen to this guy talking about the revolution that's required in the medical field. This is a lot of sort of, high-minded academic speak, which turns out to be very low-minded. It just sounds high-minded. But this is his vision for the revolution that's demanded in medicine and public health by extension. And, of course, you're talking to or about another Marxist revolutionary, just like BLM Brandon, the mayor.
We have been able to sustain as a profession being overworked, being exploited for a very long time because we believed in what we did. And I think increasingly people cannot maintain that belief. It doesn't feel valuable in the way that it once was imagined to be. It feels increasingly like I might just be serving the bottom line of the hospital as I'm turning over patients almost on an assembly line and sending them back out to communities where they don't get the follow-up care they need. They don't have access to basic social services, and their healthcare outcomes are abysmal as a consequence. U.S. mortality rates are really, really bad compared to peer nations. And this is in large part because of our healthcare system. It's also because of the way that this healthcare system has cannibalized public health. has really taken over public health and taken away from the basic social investments that we need to make. I think we need big structural changes. I don't think moral lessons in medical school are going to cut it. I don't think cultural competency is going to cut it. And I really don't think traditional healthcare reform, like another version of Obamacare, a little bit bigger, et cetera, is really going to cut it. It's important. We need to cover everyone with healthcare insofar as we can right now and use whatever means are possible to do that, because people die without it. That matters. I don't mean to dismiss that as irrelevant, but it won't solve the fundamental issue that we have, which is this is a healthcare system, even in nonprofit centers, that is predicated on for-profit incentives. I mean, we see what executives at academic medical centers, for example, are paid. That's not an accident. They're run like businesses, and they will continue to be run like businesses until we have a fundamental shift in how we organize healthcare and health systems in the US. I think the most important part of that actually is not going to happen within healthcare. It has to happen in or through investments in community-based care systems that allow for prevention, that allow for better aftercare, that allow for trust. We don't have that right now. And US public health is abysmal as a consequence. Admittedly, too simplistic formulation of what I'm saying is something like we need to shrink healthcare in order to build health. Healthcare is generally reactive. It responds after disease has already arisen. Public health is oriented around prevention. Social welfare systems allow for prevention. You can't have public health without robust social welfare systems that are publicly funded. Charity isn't enough. We have to invest in people's rights, not in just somebody's generosity. So I think in order to really make advances for health in the US, we need to take a back seat as doctors. We have often led a lot of things politically within public health that frankly, we probably shouldn't be leading. People with lived experience of being excluded from these systems, who know how you need to design the systems from the bottom up to serve the people who are most suffering right now. Those are people who need to be advancing in these systems and put in positions of leadership, along with historians, labor historians, medical historians in particular, sociologists, anthropologists, environmental scientists, people who have relevant knowledge that's really, really important for public health that has largely been marginalized. Right. So I think there's a certain kind of epistemic humility that we need to operationalize within medicine to realize that there are limits to our knowledge, and we shouldn't necessarily be running all the things that we currently are empowered to run.
Epistemic humility, that's a fun phrase. It's something that Eric Reinhardt does not possess. Your labor historian will see you now. What seems to be the problem? Yeah, tell me where it hurts. I mean, cut through all of that academic gobbledygook, and what you hear, well, just follow the logic. No charity and no capitalism. So who pays? Well, we need robust social welfare programs. Who's going to drive the social welfare programs, meaning the government that operates healthcare systems in this country from top to bottom? Because that's what he's saying. This is Canada or the UK, but more expansive because he wants it from the top down. So social welfare systems, and who's going to drive those social welfare? Not medical doctors. They have to exercise some epistemic humility and step back so that people with lived experience can step forward. So your social workers and your labor historians are going to drive the healthcare system in this city and state and country if Eric Reinhardt had his way. That's the guy who's apparently shortlisted to replace Arwady. And, you say, well, you got to derail that appointment. What's the difference? That's what BLM Brandon believes. That's what everybody around BLM Brandon believes, with perhaps the exception of his chief of staff, who's just there to make sure the DNC comes off without incident. So this is what having revolutionary Marxists in charge of your life sounds like.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636, type in DA, then a quick comment.
Michael, Southside, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Morning, Dan. Morning, Amy. Thank you both for taking my call. I'm actually scared to admit that Brandon Johnson actually did something right regarding Allison Arwady. My jaw hit the floor 2 years ago when she went along with Lollapalooza in Chicago, even though at the time Corona cases were rising.
Well, she needed a stage to tell the world
that's right, she
F
went to-
Trump. You know, she needed those stages to make her big political statements so she could be a cause celeb to the people that she actually cared about, because it wasn't the residents of Chicago.
Oh, I totally agree. You should have seen the red line during Lollapalooza. All these unvaccinated concert goers packing the red line like sardines. It was disgusting.
Wait, no, but back then you had to be vaccinated to get into Lollapalooza. Remember, they were selling fake vaccination cards?
Wasn't that what he's talking about?
well,
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, her credibility ended right then and there.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, good riddance.
Thanks for the call. Well, I agree, but I mean, you know, again, BLM branded did the right thing, but for the wrong reasons. This is not accountability for what Arwadi did. This is that she's just not radical enough. You understand?
Exactly. Yeah. And she went against the CTU, and he is the CTU. Stacey Davis Gates couldn't stand her, and that she's, you know, Brandon's advisor. So yeah, she's gone.
Mike, Northwest Indiana.
Hi, guys. Just want to make a point that all the people that advocate this nonsense will never spend a day in a public hospital. They will still have private hospitals for the elites, and it's just a matter of us dummies taking care of the expense of everything else. Thanks.
Thanks for the call. That's right. Well, I mean, the hypocrisy is attendant to their status as the vanguard of democracy, you understand. How do we know this? Because they tell us. Marvin in Burlington, Wisconsin.
Yeah, you know, it's really disappointing to hear this guy talk where, you know, it's frightening to know that half the country will go along with this guy.
Yeah, and 90% of the city. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you tag this together with the digital so-called currency that's coming. I mean, you'll have no choices left. And I don't. It's really frightening that these people are all for choice when it comes to abortion and sex change operations and all this other crap. But boy, they don't want to make any decisions for themselves. They want blanket decisions by the so-called benevolent government to make all the changes for them.
Thanks. Well, yeah, thanks for the call, Marvin. Right. Well, you know, as long as you're picking up the tab, I mean, sure, whatever you say. You're the expert. You're the labor historian. Who am I to question a labor historian or a social worker about that, you know, appendix I need removed? Yeah, okay. Sure. Unbelievable, but believable.
Yeah, I know.
I wanted to also mention this. Our friend Selena Zito has a good piece. We just keep profiling other cities, big cities around the country. So you know in Chicago that you're not alone. Same policymakers making the same policy choice, producing the same results.
Let me guess, is it a Soros-backed prosecutor?
It's bigger than that. It's a mayor. It's in Pittsburgh. And here again, I mean, just like when we talked about Oakland or we talked about D.C., if you leave Pittsburgh, we know.
You can't talk about Pittsburgh.
No, Selena Zito called Pittsburgh home for the first 60 years of her life, she writes. But if she leaves, then she is no longer allowed to talk about it because only residents of the community, residents living in a community, can talk about that community. We know that. I know that because I've been instructed on it from the highest levels of the blue city state idiocracy in Chicago and well, in the rest of the country. No matter what you know, if you're not there living it, you can't address it. Such a fascinating position to take. It's very persuasive.
I remember the governor time after time, and Dan, who's from his home in Florida.
Right.
Remember that?
Uh,
oh, it made me laugh.
Right, just a stone's throw from him in Florida, but he can maintain his residency, so again, he can comment, and no one. It's 10:30 a.m. on a Thursday morning in Pittsburgh, and a homeless man is curled up against the decorative angled brick below the archways of the large pane windows in that line, that line the office building known as the Fort Pitt Commons. The structure was so well architecturally regarded the year it opened. This is 40 years ago. It won an award for its contribution to Pittsburgh's Renaissance. Inside still retains the glory and uniqueness that earned the praise. Outside along the sidewalk, different story. On most days, more often than not, feces and needles litter the sidewalks on either side of the building, and the smell of urine is omnipresent. So are the tents, which line 2 of the 4 sides of the building. Some days, the Pittsburgh renewal truck will pull up to unload a crew to clean up the feces and needles. Today was one of those days. The crew is an effort by Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership, a private nonprofit civic organization formed by local business owners to clean up the city's decay. But what are they doing? We know this well. They're treating the symptom of a disease the city refuses to address. The problem isn't isolated. It's everywhere in the core of the city. The homeless problem is also far from harmless. Less than 2 weeks ago, just a couple blocks from here, Larry Gilmore and his wife had just gotten married, were celebrating their honeymoon at the Even Hotel along Forbes Avenue. When the groom was assaulted by a homeless man, the man came at Larry from behind at an elevator, put him in a chokehold, banged his head on the floor, then returned several times to kick and stomp him as he took several items, including his pants. Gilmore was hospitalized with a head injury and intubated. He's listed in critical condition. Larry Seisler is a Washington County native who has offices in both Pittsburgh and Philly. He was staying at the Even Hotel and came up upon the scene moments after the police arrived. In all my years living and visiting Pittsburgh, I've never seen the downtown look so bad, empty, dirty, and unsafe. Personally, I experienced an attempted homicide in the lobby of my hotel on Forbes Avenue and was accosted twice walking away to my office in Gateway Center. A city is only as strong as its core, said Seisler. At the center of this collapse is Mayor Ed Gainey, who, after taking office in January of 2022, has done little to nothing to address the city's collapse. See if this rings familiar at all. He is surrounded by people who are so wedded to ideology and the social justice movement that they fail to realize that you actually have to govern to run a city. 6 months ago, the last and only time Gainey addressed Pittsburgh's slide in front of hundreds of downtown stakeholders, business owners, foundations, and downtown residents, Gainey attempted to use stats to tell everyone in attendance to basically not believe their lying eyes. Sound familiar? The only passion Gainey has shown is standing on the picket line with SEIU. As someone who called Pittsburgh home for the first 60 years of my life and was a ride or die supporter no matter how bad things got in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, to see the city someone in my family has called home since the mid-18th century. Wow. But can't comment. Take a turn this drastic is nothing less than heartbreaking. Nearly every day of my life used to include strolls to the city, biking along the trails, and eating in the city's wide range of small and unique restaurants. Now, I have not walked through the city alone in more than 18 months. Rides along the city's lovely trails have ended as well. The last time I ate in the city, the walk from the parking garage to the restaurant included so much harassment that I turned around and went home. Seisler and the residents don't have the answer. Gainey isn't even looking for one. But in political reality, he doesn't have to. The mayor doesn't have to because Pittsburgh is a one-party town. No one challenges him or the city council, and the populace doesn't either. So it appears the new Pittsburgh status quo will be managing the decay. Managing the decay. Riding the doom loop in San Francisco. Whatever phrase you prefer, that's what's happening in every major city, and even mid-major cities, as soon as you get to about 250,000, 300,000, because you have the same ideological profile in charge, the same policies being pursued. So you have the same dynamics to varying degrees. Baltimore, Pittsburgh, our nation's capital, New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Oakland. Kathy, Southwest Side, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Oh, hi, Dan and Amy. Thank you so much for having me. The only thing I can say in listening to all this, other than being sick to my stomach, is that the only positive that comes from this is that this is not just nationwide. This is state by state. And the only comfort I have is knowing that as soon as my husband and we have the means, we have some projects we're finishing up in Illinois, just get the heck out of Illinois. There are other states that are not drinking all this Kool-Aid. They're not thinking boys are girls and girls are boys. They're not trying to convince people of an ideology that just is, insanity. And that's all I can say. You're not going to beat these people in Illinois. Get the heck out as fast as you can. Let them all hang out with each other and live in their own misery. And that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Kathy.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
When you're in the market to buy or sell a home, commercial property, or even vacant land, let attorney Susan J. Kim step in. She's reliable, responsive, personable, and extremely thorough when helping you deal with an otherwise stressful transaction. Attorney Kim leads with her values and is committed to providing legal services with excellence. To contact Attorney Kim, visit sjkimlaw.com. That's sjkimlaw.com. Whether it's drafting agreements, negotiating contract terms, or closing on a property, Attorney Susan J. Kim can do it all. Over 10 years of experience and her wealth of knowledge tackling complicated legal negotiations and breaking them down into a smooth, easy-to-understand process is what she does best. So let Attorney Susan J. Kim step in. To schedule your legal consultation today, visit sjkimlaw.com. That's sjkimlaw.com or call 847-906-3166. Susan J. Kim, Attorney at Law, is a state of Illinois licensed real estate attorney.
Just a note, Mayor Johnson fired Dr. Wardy while he was on his way to the Bruce Springsteen concert with Kamala Harris's husband.
Cool.
Yeah, he's so hip. All right, coming up.
He's boss, is what he is.
Yeah. Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
We'll have the Tucker interview with former Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sun, 6:06.
Today, periods of rain and a thunderstorm, a high of 72 degrees. It's 6 a.m. WIND, Chicago.
A lot of people that are still missing. I think that toll is way higher than what they can prove right now.
Ariel Quiros tells Fox it's a miracle his house is intact with all the burnt-out destruction around it. Search crews keep going through the ashes in Lahaina looking for more victims in the deadliest wildfire in the U.S. in more than a century. Fox Weather's Max Gordon's in Maui, and while they still don't know what sparked this fire.
A class action lawsuit points the finger at Hawaiian Electric, saying that they ignored weather warnings and kept lines electrified even amid high winds and high fire danger. Hawaiian Electric says they can't comment on pending litigation and that they're focused on restoring power in the affected areas. Meanwhile, the governor of Hawaii ordering an investigation into why these fires started.
We will build back together. We will find out what we could have done to prevent such loss of life.
There's also an investigation into what caused a house to blow up in Plumboro, Pennsylvania Saturday. 5 people were killed. Another person's in critical condition.
This will be a slow and long process as things need to be tested, and there will be lots of forensic testing.
Allegheny County Emergency Assistant Chief Steve Amberlina. The explosion so powerful homes nearby were damaged. Drama in the sky at an air show near Ann Arbor, Michigan.
When the crowd saw the pilot and a passenger parachuting out of a Russian MiG fighter jet. Jasmine Jenkins says she saw the plane hit a bird.
You could hear it go into the propeller, and there was one sound where there was a boom, and then the next sound was a boom too, but then after the second one, the pilot came out, and then soon after the plane just went down.
Officials say the plane crashed into an apartment complex parking lot, but no injuries on the ground.
Fox's Jill Nato. In Niger, military leaders who took over in a coup want to put the president they ousted on trial for treason. America's listening to Fox News.
6:02, 71 degrees on this back-to-school week Monday. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Scott. Flood watch up for much of our listening area beginning at 10 a.m. through midnight as showers and storms are set to track through the area. Illinois officials are investigating after a 3-year-old girl from Venezuela died on a bus heading to Chicago from Brownsville, Texas. Texas officials say the bus pulled over last Thursday night after The child started showing health concerns. All the passengers on that bus from Brownsville, Texas, had signed a consent waiver saying they were willing to go to Chicago on that bus. Police are still looking for the suspect in a fatal shooting of a teen in Highland Park. Officers responded to the 2300 block of Green Bay Road. Around 11:30 yesterday, the 16-year-old victim was rushed to a local hospital, later pronounced dead. The boy, who was walking on the sidewalk, was approached by another male on a bike who pulled out a gun and shot him and then abandoned that bike. Larry Snelling is Mayor Brandon Johnson's selection for Chicago's next police superintendent. Johnson made it official Sunday, naming Snelling to the post pending approval by the city council. The CPD veteran is a 28-year member of the force and is moving over from a role as chief of counterterrorism. 3 were shot during a party early Sunday in Elgin. According to police there, it happened around 1:20 a.m. Elgin police say shots were fired during a fight, and a boy and 2 men were hurt. Religious and spiritual leaders from more than 200 faiths and traditions around the globe will meet in Chicago this week for the so-called Parliament of the World's Religions, beginning this afternoon at McCormick Place's Lakeside Center. The conference began at the Chicago World's Fair in 1893. Cubs lost to Toronto 11-4, while the White Sox lost to the Brew Crews 7-3. Sox and Cubs have a series that begins tomorrow night. The news, a service of Tom Mirabali Insurance. Get a free quote. See if you can qualify and get started at healthplanchicago.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
This radio station is always on, but sometimes you need more content that you can take with you anywhere. That's why we invented the SalemPodcastNetwork.com. You'll find all the great hosts on this radio station, plus a few more, like Charlie Kirk, Dinesh D'Souza, Trish Regan, Jenna Ellis, and Dennis and Julie. There's literally no end to what we can teach you. It's like radio on demand, and just like radio, it's always on. Go find out what you're missing. Download the app, SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
You've heard me discuss how my everyday aches and pains were affecting my daily life before I started taking Relief Factor. You've also heard me talk to you about how my friends and family have found relief from their aches and pains with Relief Factor. Well, let me tell you about Gary from California. Gary says, "I cannot thank you enough. I am 62 years old and have just started taking Relief Factor. I've never felt better and will recommend Relief Factor to all my baby boomer friends." Well, thanks for writing, Gary. 3 weeks from now, you could be doing the things you enjoy doing. Your first step to living the life you love, free from aches and pains, could just be to order the 3-week Quick Start for only $19.95. After trying Relief Factor, over 500,000 people have gone on to order more. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF to find out more about this offer. That's ReliefFactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF. Live your best life and feel the difference with Relief Factor.
Rick here from Forever Remodeling. You probably heard me talk about how our unique design-build process removes the normal problems of hiring a design and construction company separately. But just don't take my word for it. Listen to these customer reviews. Kelly W. says, "From consultation to design to construction, my remodel flowed seamlessly." Adity J says, "We were thrilled to have a full-service remodeling firm take all the guesswork out of our project." And Caesar V says, "Forever Remodeling made what could have been a very stressful project extremely easy for us. They finished on time and did amazing work." Kitchens, bathrooms, basements, additions, whole house remodeling, whatever you need, our start-to-finish process delivers stunning results without the hassles, headaches, and stress. For a free consultation, call Forever Remodeling at 847-809-3355 or visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4everremodeling.com.
Balance of Nature, changing the world one life at a time.
I think it's just a really good idea, simply because I have such a busy schedule that I can't always take care of all of my nutritional needs in the proper ways. I really like it. It's quite nice. I would say that I have more energy. I'm sleeping really well. With my schedule, I don't get quite enough sleep sometimes. And when that happens, I still can manage to have a normal day the following day. So I'm pretty well pleased with it.
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first preferred order with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. That's 1-800-246-8751. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code Chicago.
6:08, let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, and we will start on the inbound Kennedy. Inbound between Austin and Montrose. Delays this morning already. Brake lights up. 29 O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Kennedy outbound, delays between Cumberland and I-190 on the west end. It's 28 out to the big airport this morning. Ike is okay. Stevenson 24, 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Tri-State left lane blocked with debris this morning. It's on the southbound side of 294, just after the Stevenson Expressway. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with our AccuWeather meteorologist, Steve Williams.
Periods of rain, thunderstorm. We do have a flood watch this afternoon. High today 72. Partly cloudy, showers and breezy tonight, low 62. A shower in spots tomorrow morning. Then clouds and sun, breezy day, the high 77. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
At 6:09, it's time to visit signaturebank.bank and time to check your morning temps. 71 at O'Hare, 72 Lakefront, 72 at Midway, 68 in Aurora. Your next news update, 6:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by ServPro, the #1 choice in cleanup and restoration. Visit servpro.com.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560 The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. We'll get to the whole appointment of the special prosecutor to protect the big guy a little bit later, but we have to address this interview that Tucker Carlson did with former Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund. Well, the interview he did again, because as he detailed in this interview that was released the end of last week, he had done his sit-down with Stephen Sund. It was supposed to air on April 24th. That didn't happen, well, in part because Tucker Carlson was relieved from his duties at Fox, as you know. So he had Sund come back, and they talked for an hour on his, or for his Twitter show, for lack of a better description at this point. And the things that Stephen Sund had to say about January 6th are remarkable. What happened on that day from a intel and law enforcement perspective, the questions that we still don't have answers to, Stephen Sund doesn't have answers to. And so this is against the backdrop of not just the demagoguing of January 6th, not just the unanswered questions about January 6th, but of course also the indictment of the former president for crimes surrounding January 6th. So sort of a big deal. And there's a couple of categories of, I don't know, incompetence, malfeasance, dereliction, conspiracy. I don't know exactly where it falls, and Stephen Sund doesn't seem to either, but it was unusual. It's like listening to the IRS agents talk about the Hunter Biden investigation. It was unusual. We've seen this stuff before, And the way we normally handle cases like this, we didn't handle it that way this time. That's essentially what Stephen Sund is saying about intel sharing, about the requests for resources like National Guard. First of all, on the intel leading up to January 6th, what he was told versus what the intel agencies and federal law enforcement were saying to one another. He was cut out. He's the Capitol Police Chief. His officers are front line.
What we've learned that it was out there at the time versus what we had coming into it, night and day. And when you talk about the intelligence agency, I have my own intelligence agency up at Capitol Police, IICD, Interagency Intelligence Coordination Division.
Yes.
That coordinates with the other intelligence agencies. And now, we're seeing the intelligence I was getting coming into it was indicating this was going to be just like the previous MAGA rallies, the November and December rallies that we had, where we had limited skirmishes. We had some skirmishes afterwards down by BLM Plaza with some of the Antifa groups and some of the BLM groups. But coming into it, absolutely zero with the intelligence that we know now existed, talking about attacking the Capitol, killing my police officers, attacking members of Congress and killing members of Congress. None of that was included in the intelligence coming up to.
That you received.
Correct.
But others received that intelligence.
Well, we now know FBI, DHS was swimming in that intelligence. We also know now that the military seemed to have some very concerning intelligence as well.
So why wouldn't you, if you're DHS, if you're FBI, why wouldn't you share whatever the chatter you're hearing or the information you're getting, members of Congress being targeted and so on and so forth? Why wouldn't you share that with Capitol Police?
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. You can also text us all morning long at 64636. Type in DA, then a quick comment.
Sund went on to explain, usually the feds will essentially put out threat assessments, but they didn't this time.
Well, think about it. I'm the chief of police at the United States Capitol, probably one of the most prominent and should be the most secure building in the United States, in the world. You'd like to think of that. But when you look at it, and don't take my word for it, there's now at least four congressional reports talking about the intelligence failure, IG reports, GAO reports talking about various intelligence failures. But coming into it, think about it. FBI, the Washington field office, didn't put out a single document, a single official document specific to January 6th. DHS didn't put out a single official document specific to January 6th. That's very unusual. I've been through many other events in Washington, D.C. FBI would host a joint conference call at the least, maybe a executive JTTF, Joint Terrorism Task Force briefing, and for all these big events, DHS and FBI would get together and put out something that was called a JIB, a Joint Intelligence Bulletin. Zero for January 6th.
And Stephen Sund, 30 years on the job. He has, detailed down to the minute what happened. He's memorialized it in a book, what happened on January 6th, and then all these events that were leading up to January 6th that he now looks back and has been looking back because he's testified about this and saying he was curious what was happening in real time, but because it was unusual, the approach that was being taken. But of course, he didn't know what he didn't know at the time. And now he knows, and he's going back and saying, well, when it was the IMF or something like this, this is how it was done. We've done these events before. 30 years on the job. I get this. I understand how this works. There is these interagency committees or protocols that are followed because you have so many law enforcement and intel agencies that have some role to play in the provision of security for the nation's capital. It all makes sense. Pretty standard. Shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody. What's not standard is the approach those agencies took in advance of January 6th and on January 6th. But we're still leading up to it. A call on January 5th.
So this is what we know for a fact, and I'll tell you, I'm not the only chief that was in the dark. You look at Robert Conte, head of the largest police department in Washington, D.C. He also said the same thing. He wasn't getting the same notifications like the Norfolk memo that came out the day before. He didn't get it. So Steve D'Antuono, who's the Washington field office FBI director, You look at the GAO report that came out February of this year. It talks about multiple emails. Is the GAO report, or it's a Senate report that just came out in July, just last month. Talks about multiple emails going to Steve D'Antuono on Sunday, Monday, and some probably Tuesday, just the days before, talking about the violence that they're predicting coming up to the Capitol. And I have a video call with him on that Tuesday, and nothing said about it. I mean,
he didn't mention
that's
it.
Not a word. Not a word.
So the FBI, the head of the FBI field office in D.C. says nothing to the Capitol Police Chief. And then
on purpose, don't you think?
Well, I don't know why he didn't. We just know he didn't. And then calls the weekend before January 6th by Acting Defense Secretary Chris Miller and our old friend, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, General Mark Milley, to you. The weekend before.
You have the United States military, Secretary of Defense or Acting Secretary of Defense Miller and General Milley had both discussed locking down the city of Washington, D.C. because they were so worried about violence at the Capitol on January 6th. On Sunday and Monday, they had been discussing locking down the city, revoking permits on Capitol Hill because of the concern for violence. You know who issues the permits on Capitol Hills for demonstrations? I do. You know who wasn't told? Me. Instead, on January 4th, what does Miller do? He puts out a memo restricting the National Guard from carrying the various weapons, any civil disobedience equipment that would be utilized for the very demonstrations or violence that he sees coming. It just doesn't make any sense.
And Milley's gathering of intel and not sharing, it wasn't limited to that example that you just heard from Stephen's son.
When you talk about the military, General Milley, we're now finding out, and it's not from me, this is from Carol Lenig, investigative reporter with the Washington Post, has found that he was using data miner on his own, coming across intelligence.
Tell us what data miner is.
So data miner is an intelligence platform. It's not something your average citizen would have on their computer. I guess it goes in and does crawling across webs. I'm not really sure how it works.
Yes.
But it's not it's an intelligence platform. He's picking up intelligence talking about killing members of Congress and attacking the United States Capitol. And he's not telling me. He's telling select members of Congress. I mean, Carol Lenig writes about it in her book. That's concerning as hell, because as the chief of police, there's a duty to warn there, and I should be told so I can take the necessary action. I don't know who else he was telling, but he sure wasn't telling me.
So there's question number one, and many examples that feed the question: why is the chief of Capitol Police cut out of the information sharing loop about intel? And why is he not given the perspective on the nature of the possible threat on that day?
Well, it sounds to me like they were setting him up to fail because they have a political agenda.
Why would you not share this information? It's ridiculous. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636-DA, turnkey.pro text line. Milley and Miller are talking about locking down D.C. and revoking permits to gather and protest. So you're talking about suspension of First Amendment rights. That's how serious you think the threat is, and you're not going to tell local police, Capitol Police?
The person who's in charge of handing out permits?
And who has primary responsibility for protecting the grounds and the personnel. Huh?
Several text messages about how many FBI agents were embedded and did they contribute to violence?
We'll get to that. Okay. Stevenson's perspective on it. There's a lot here. So that's one bucket, intel. Then what about the day of? And the need for reinforcements. So we've asked this question many times. What did the sergeants at arms in the House and Senate communicate to Pelosi and McConnell, respectively? The offer of National Guard by Trump, the Jan 6 conspiracy organizer, allegedly by the left, he offered National Guard. They said, we don't need it. Really? And here's what they're gathering in terms of intel on potential threats. And then Sund, on the day of, he asked for National Guard. And he goes to the sergeants at arms for the House and the Senate. And this is what happens.
So what was in effect on the 6th, that requires me to go and get approval for bringing in National Guard or federal assistance in advance. I have to go to the Capitol Police Board and get approval from congressional leadership in advance, like I did on January 3rd. I'm denied twice because of optics and because the intelligence didn't support it. So think about that.
Let me ask you the question, who made that decision? Who denied you?
I was denied by Paul Irving, House Sergeant Arms, and also Mike Stenger, Senate Sergeant Arms.
And who do they
on
work?
January 3rd.
Who do they work for?
It would have been working for Pelosi on the House side. That Pelosi was his number one boss, and then McConnell on the Senate side.
And then 71 minutes. 71 minutes the day of. This is important. 71 minutes where between when Sun goes back to those same sergeants at arms, Irving and Stanger, Pelosi and McConnell, respectively, and asks for National Guard again because the rioting is occurring, the siege is happening, and they're all watching it on the same televisions. You've got National Guard seeing the same thing. I mean, they're seeing the same thing outside of the windows in the offices where they are. And yet
11 times I call in the next 71 minutes going, where are we on the approval? Where are we in the approval? He goes, any minute now, any minute, I'm going to get any minute. Finally at 2:09, 71 minutes later, 2:09, I'm finally given approval. Think about that. 71 minutes later, I immediately call Mike Stinger, say we've got approval. I was so pissed off, I made sure that the watch commander, I'm in the command center, I yelled to John Wisham, the lieutenant, that's my watch commander. I said, John, mark the time as 2:10. I finally got approval for the National Guard.
And then later, and this is a bit murky to me, but later he's on the phone with the Pentagon trying to get National Guard. So I guess maybe this was I've got some questions, follow-up questions in this Tucker interview that I wish he would have asked, but he didn't. But this is one of them. So I guess maybe the only thing I'm surmising, and maybe Dakota Wood can help us at the top of the 7 o'clock hour, but he gets approval from the sergeants at arms. Then he's on the Pentagon trying to actually get deployment. And so maybe there's some disconnect between approval and actual deployment. So he discusses his phone call with functionaries at the Pentagon trying to actually get the personnel.
I beg, and he goes, well, I'm going to walk down the hall and we'll talk to the Secretary of Defense or whoever he's going to talk to. Right then I get notification. So I'm still on the call. We have the shooting of Ashley Babbitt. And I said, we have shots fired. I still remember yelling over the phone, we have shots fired on the USCI Capitol. Is that urgent enough for you now? Hang up the phone, because now I got to start making my notifications. I got to call the Sergeant Arms saying, hey, we got what looks like maybe a confirmed shooting. Do you know when the National Guard finally arrived? 6 p.m. 6 p.m. they're sworn in on post. Do you know those National Guard, the 150 to 180 that are within eyesight of the Capitol, you know what they do with them? They put them in vehicles, drive them around the Capitol back to the D.C. Armory. You know where the D.C. Armory is.
It's far away, yeah.
Washington,
Yes.
White House is on one side, United States Capitol, D.C. Armory almost equidistant on the other side.
RFK Stadium.
Yeah, by RFK Stadium. They drive them back then, and they send me in the evening troops.
Not really.
Can you frickin' believe it? No, that's real. That's real. And you know what else they do? While I'm begging for assistance, the Pentagon sending resources to generals' houses to protect their homes, but not me. Oh. So you begin to think, it seems a little conspiratorial. I can see where somebody, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I can see where people begin to go down that rabbit hole real quick.
Wow. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line.
So 71 minutes is, and he said mark the time at 2:10, is the hour and 10 minutes, 11 minutes that it took as he's pounding the sergeants at arms for approval to get approval. But it wasn't until 4 hours later that he had got actually any personnel. In point of fact, this is rather remarkable. Point of fact, this happened.
New Jersey State Police beat them to the Capitol before the D.C. National Guard arrived at the Capitol. I had D.C. National Guards, men and women, that were infuriated. They were so pissed off that they weren't allowed to respond. They were extremely upset.
So you have National Guard within eyesight of what's happening on the Capitol grounds, and New Jersey State Police, because they put out a call for, any and all.
Yeah.
New Jersey State Police beat them to the spot because of the, what do you want to call it, bureaucratic hand-wringing? I don't know. But he doesn't get intel, and he doesn't get personnel. Why? Greg in Jefferson Park. You're in
Hey, good
Chicago's
morning, guys.
Answer.
I'll tell you something. The Republican establishment, the bureaucracies, none of these people can be trusted. Mitch McConnell, the clown, called off the National Guard, did whatever he did to see to it that Trump is out of office. The other thing that really frosts me is Trump. The guy's got to be the worst picker of people on the planet. He put all these guys in place. Ray has been doing everything he can since he put him in there. To screw Trump, Milley, the whole lot of them. It's just astonishing. The guy is. I voted for him twice. I'll vote for him again if he's the candidate. But his picker, his ability to pick the right people is just abysmal. You guys have a good day.
Yeah, he needs a Leonard Leo for the in the deep state, doesn't he? Somebody that's sort of prequel, put together a list.
Yeah.
Like Leo did for the Supreme
Maybe he's
Court
learned
nominees.
his lesson now that he's had some 4 years off.
One can hope. Frank in Tinley Park.
Yeah, this is a familiar 9/11. They finally said that they didn't share the information about the terrorists learning how to fly, going to flight schools. The CIA was hiding it from the FBI, etc. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. And they all apologized, and they're going to change.
Well, this is what got our Department of Homeland Security and our Director of National Intelligence. It's over. It's a right to make sure that the information was shared and it wasn't siloed and so on and so forth. Thanks for the call, Frank. And here we are. Is this just bureaucratic snafus? This is just interagency communication failures? Maybe. As Chief Son said, he's not a political guy. It's easy to go down a certain rabbit hole, like it was a setup rabbit hole. He's not saying it was. He doesn't know. I don't know. But these are questions that demand answers. I know that. Frank, Arlington Heights.
Good morning. Call me a nattering nabob of negativity, but all
right,
the
Spiro Agnew.
And then that you and Tucker are asking about all this incompetence and corruption within our government. None of it matters because well over half of the population in our country, 60% at least, get their narrative from the mainstream media, and they don't care. They're going to hear that narrative, and that part of the population doesn't care enough to investigate it because essentially they will tolerate. I think a lot of the population of this country will tolerate an incompetent and a corrupt government as long as they can have their right to an abortion.
Well, thanks for the call, Frank. Not only that, I think it's even scarier than that. I think there's a lot of people in this country who are fine with violations of duty, violations of people's constitutional rights, so long as it is in furtherance of defenestrating their political enemies. And that's a real sickness. That's how you lose a free society, when anything goes against my political opponents. There are no safeguards, there are no restraints. The ends justify the means. And for a large swath of the population, that's where we're at. We'll come back to this at the top of the 7 o'clock hour with Dakota Wood, because I do want to get to the obvious other question that people have about the FBI and federal law enforcement's engagement on that day. And Sund had some things to say about that as well. But at the bottom of the 6 o'clock hour, 6:36, we'll talk to Eric Weiss, Kendall County State's Attorney, about the Illinois Supreme Court, surprise, surprise, upholding Governor Jelly Belly's sport rifle ban, 6:36.
But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
71 degrees, and a flood watch is up for much of our listening area this morning. That begins at 10 a.m. The deadliest wildfire in modern U.S. history has claimed at least 96 lives. Maui Police Chief John Pelletier spoke at a press conference late last night, saying search crews are now using dogs to look for additional remains.
We're going as fast as we can. But just so you know, 3%, that's what's been searched with the dogs, 3%. We got 12 more dogs on the way today. I made that request. FEMA made that happen. They're on their way.
The director of FEMA says Hawaii's wildfires are like a scene from a movie.
It's absolutely heartbreaking to just see an entire community that is no longer there.
At the time, Pelletier says only 3% have been covered. More of that area will be covered later today. The chair of the House Foreign Affairs Committee is criticizing President Biden's deal with Iran to free 5 American prisoners.
$6 billion that now is going to go into Iran and prop up their proxy war terror operations and their nuclear bomb aspirations.
Texas Republican Congressman Michael McCall on Fox News Sunday. Niger's mutinous soldiers say they will prosecute, depose President Mohamed Bazoum for high treason and undermining state security, but they're also open to dialogue, they say, with other West African nations. A landslide at a jade mine in northern Myanmar has left more than 30 missing. Search and rescue operation is underway. Authorities say 4 died, a 5th was unaccounted for in a major house explosion that damaged at least a dozen other dwellings in western Pennsylvania. U.S. Steel says it's rejecting a $7.3 billion buyout proposal from rival Cleveland-Cliffs and was reviewing strategic alternatives after receiving several unsolicited offers for parts of the Pittsburgh-based company. Illinois officials are investigating after a 3-year-old girl from Venezuela died on a bus headed to Chicago from Brownsville, Texas. Larry Snelling is Mayor Brandon Johnson's selection for Chicago's next police superintendent. Officials with the United Center say Saturday night's WGCI Summer Jam concert had to be cut short for safety reasons. Reports of an active shooter were found to be false. However, the department is investigating several other incidents, including the theft of merchandise. Cubs lost to Toronto 11-4. Jamison Taillon tagged with the loss. The White Sox are next tomorrow night. The Southsiders lost to the Brew Crew Sunday 7-3. The news, a service of MyPillow. Big news. MyPillow employees want to thank you by giving you the lowest price in history on their MyPillows. Queen-size MyPillows regular price $69.98. Now only $19.98 with promo code Liberty. A check of traffic and weather is on the way next on AM 560.
Are you a driver of a Ford Power Stroke diesel engine? Tired of taking your Ford Power Stroke diesel in to be misdiagnosed or paying for repairs that don't fix the problem? Well, bring your vehicle to the diesel headquarters, Remke's Garage. The shop is equipped with state-of-the-art diagnostic equipment and highly trained technicians. Take it to the experts. Take it to Remke's Garage. Remke's Garage specializes in Ford Power Stroke, Chevy Duramax, Dodge Cummins, Mercedes Sprinter, and Isuzu diesel engines and transmission repairs. At Remke's, they'll make your vehicle repairs convenient by offering a free commercial loaner vehicle.
Remke's Garage, where you won't spend $1,000 to fix a $100 problem. Call for details and to schedule an appointment at 800-5-REMKES or visit remkesgarage.com. Remke's Garage, your diesel headquarters.
Barbecue bags and brews sound great right about now. But are you really ready to entertain on that dirty, oil-stained driveway or patio? No oil stain removal is too big or too small for Cabino Environmental. Whether you're a homeowner or a business owner, you can use Cabino Oil Stain Remover. It's a safe, effective, and powerful oil stain lifting formula. This is not the same stuff you buy at the big box store. This is a concentrated, all-natural stain lifter that goes deep into the concrete or brick for superior cleaning. Simply pour it on the soiled area, let it dry, and then brush away. Start your cleanup at CabinoEnvironmental.com. The Cabino Environmental Response Team will come to your rescue across Northern Illinois and the Milwaukee area. And you can purchase the Cabino Oil Stain Remover online and have it shipped anywhere in the U.S. and Canada. Can't wait? Cabino Oil Stain Remover is also now available at your local Rental Max.
Angie makes it easier than ever to connect with skilled pros to get your home projects done well, from repair to remodel. Get started on the app or go to Angie.com. That's ANGI.com.
6:37 and a check on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time is a service of Blindster.com. If you're like many people, you think custom blinds is a job for expensive pros. Well, at Blindster, if you have a tape measure, screwdriver, you can install their blinds and save big. Blindster.com. Eden's inbound, 19 Lake Cook Road to the junction. Kennedy inbound, 40 minutes, O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Ike on the inbound side, 33 and climbing from 390 to the old post office. Stevenson inbound at about 24 minutes in from the Tri-State to DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. A cooler day ahead. Periods of rain on the way, maybe a thunderstorm. Watch for that flooding in low-lying areas, especially if we get that heavy rain. High 72 and 62 with showers overnight. 71 right now. Next news coming up at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So the Illinois State Supreme Court, in their infinite wisdom, 5-2 Democrat majority, unsurprisingly upheld Governor Jellybelly's sport rifle ban. That's not the end of the story on that, however, because there are federal lawsuits surrounding that, because this just in, your Second Amendment right to self-protection is a constitutional right.
Don't tell them that. Yeah.
That trumps state law, not in an unlimited way, because there are gun restrictions that have passed constitutional muster. We'll see if Jellybelly's did, but that's not the only thing he did when it came to guns. He also signed the Firearm Industry Responsibility Act. You know, he is not a huge fan of First Amendment rights any more than he is Second Amendment rights. I'm talking about the governor. The Firearm Industry Responsibility Act bans advertising or marketing that encourages unlawful private military activity.
What exactly does that mean?
Well, first of all, you need a state law to prohibit something that's prohibited at the federal level. No. Virtue signaling. It also bans advertising firearms to people under 18 and limits the kind of imagery that can be used in the ads. It allows people to sue manufacturers. Of course, this is to try to get to manufacturers through the back door, because you can't get to them through the front door because of Supreme Court jurisprudence, like, for example, the Heller and McDonald decisions. Pritzker saying, we hold opioid manufacturers accountable. We hold vaping companies accountable. We hold predatory lenders accountable. Gun manufacturers shouldn't get to hide from the law, and now they won't be able to. They were never able to hide from the law. The difference is that industries should be held to the same standard when it comes to advertising and any other sort of regulation. Gun manufacturers had no indemnification from the law. That's just a lie. And it's ironic because we just heard from Governor Pritzker in the legislation he signed that is clearly unconstitutional and has been enjoined by a federal judge for the time being, that pregnancy care centers don't have the right to lie. His, version of what a lie is. Well, this is just a bald-faced one, and he just said you don't have the right to lie. So when does he go to prison? For more on this and other matters of a legal nature, please be joined again by Eric Weiss. He's the state's attorney for Kendall County, Illinois. Eric, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. Thanks for having me again.
So what of Pritzker's action and now the state Supreme Court's action as well when it comes to Second Amendment rights? Can you take both the Supreme Court's decision and this legislation, the Firearm Industry Responsibility Act, in turn?
Well, I'll take the legislation first. I mean, the quickest and easiest and obvious answer is, yeah, I believe it's unconstitutional. But you also look at that. Take a car manufacturer. They advertise how fast your car can go and how quickly it accelerates. Are they going to be held responsible for every time there's a car crash? Mm-hmm. No, it's not any different than a gun. But I was
the other part of it too. I mean, the standard by which you're going to be accused of advertising to people under the age of 18. How are you supposed to wall off, online advertising or advertising you do to even email to clients that get shared? Then are you going to be subject to civil action under this law?
Well, and it's such a broad standard. It's such an undefinable standard that's again a reason where you look at the constitutionality of something and I don't see how that's going to act, but that doesn't seem to stop certain people from doing certain things.
Mm-hmm. And on the sport rifle ban?
Yeah, you know what? You're probably not going to like my answer, but I'm not overly surprised by the Supreme Court because the complaint itself never actually addressed the Second Amendment argument. And if you read the opinion carefully, I've read it a couple times, it really gives a roadmap of how this ban is unconstitutional. If you read it carefully and you read even probably the second page of the opinion, it even says, we express no opinion on the potential viability of plaintiff's waived claim concerning the Second Amendment. Now, I wasn't in the trial court. I didn't file the complaint.
Right.
But why that wasn't brought more to the attention, it's mentioned, Dan and Amy, probably 10 times in the opinion, at a minimum. I didn't count the numbers, but that we don't address the Second Amendment argument. So it was an equal protection argument and a issue regarding commerce stuff, which it should have been upheld on that provision, and it was a 4-3 decision. But I'm actually very confident that if this would get back to the Supreme Court in the Second Amendment portion, that they would find it unconstitutional.
Well, then, if that was a mistake by Dan Calkins, I think former state rep, outgoing state rep, who filed that suit, if that was just a strategic mistake, well, that's fine. That is what it is, as you're describing. Yeah. But then, wouldn't that suggest that the suits filed at the federal level have a good chance of succeeding?
Yes. I agree. I think everybody who does this type of work, who looks at this and says, is this constitutional under the Second Amendment portion? There's one of that in the Illinois Constitution as well, is looking at this like there's just no way this is going to stand up. And again, I think they gave a great roadmap. I don't like the outcome. I wish they would have found it on what the grounds were there. But it's all but spells it out that this is just an unconstitutional act. It tells why it's unconstitutional. It tells the standard that they're going to review it under. It tells why the difference between the equal protection argument and the Second Amendment argument would be a different outcome. They're just saying, well, but it's the only thing that's not in front of us. It's not here for us to decide, but we're telling you this is what the answer is. And it goes into pretty good detail about why.
Well, what about high-capacity magazines? Where does that stand?
You know what? I think when looking at the bill that they brought and the sections that they brought, it would be from my reading of it, again, just from mine, that it's going to throw everything of that out.
And I have to I mentioned this particularly with respect to the advertising legislation. The incredible statement that Pritzker made in defending this legislation he signed and the General Assembly, in its infinite wisdom, sent to his desk, that attempts to criminalize the advertising of pregnancy care centers. And he literally said verbatim, you have a right to free speech, but you don't have a right to lie. This is a Northwestern law grad. What an indictment of Northwestern law, or maybe just an indictment of this individual's character, this individual Northwestern law grad's character, probably more the latter. But yeah, if you said you don't have a right to commit fraud, well, yeah, that's true. But right to lie, because I so deem the pregnancy care center's effort to serve women in crisis who are pregnant, I deem that somehow deceptive, or I just don't like their existence. I'm going to call them liars and then ban their lying.
Yeah, I can't follow the logic, Dan. At some point the logic has to make sense, and this one doesn't, because you're right. You and I can disagree about something. Which one's lying? I don't know. Probably neither one of us are lying, but I can accuse you of lying because you don't say what I want you to say.
And I just think all of this came about because of the horrific Highland Park shooting, and then somebody got shot in Highland Park yesterday.
The gun issue, not the pregnancy care center issue.
Right.
But you just have, the federal district court that's enjoined this legislation, the pregnancy care center legislation, excoriated Kwame Raoul. Almost to the point of ridicule. And I don't know. I just wonder where, other than from the pro-life community and from this show, where are like self-respecting prosecutors like yourself, law enforcement, just average citizens, to say, who does this guy think he is? This is just black letter violation of people's fundamental rights. And it gets nary any coverage outside of those venues I just mentioned.
No, you're right. And sometimes when you see that, you wonder why. Well, we all know why at the end of the day, but why, if I was an average everyday citizen, why I'm not more concerned with this. And you should be. And not whether it's just guns or the Planned Parenthood or whatever it is. It's that slippery slope of you start banning free speech, there's only one thing left, and that's just a dictatorship.
Speaking of the Supreme Court's recent rulings, of course, they upheld the Safety Act 2.0, the Pritzker Purge Law 2.0, as I would call it. And so you're on the clock to prepare for the New Jerusalem that's coming next month. So where does that stand? Like, what preparations are you making in Kendall County for the elimination of cash bail?
Well, we were making preparations before the circuit court, and then ultimately the Supreme Court stayed the provisions. So we had some of those already in place. We're going through the list of the inmates that would be eligible for release or potentially eligible for release, and figuring out what we're going to do with them. Those that we want to detain, we're fortunate in Kendall County. We don't have the sheer numbers that will detain Sangamon. The bigger counties, Champaign, are going to have to, and Cook, I don't know what they're going to do. They'll probably just let everyone out. But trying to deal with those inmates and trying to make sure. We've had calls from victims saying, what's going to happen? Should I move? Should I?
Yes.
Should I somewhere? And as long as you leave us your address so we can find you a trial.
Right.
But they're concerned. They literally don't know what's coming, and trying to ensure their safety is our number one concern, obviously, and then obviously the community is a very close second. But it's a major concern. Trying to figure out how this crazy new way of life in the criminal justice system is going to be implemented, and just the sheer volume of cases that we're going to be dealing with, just on detain or not detain, going to be interesting.
And I assume this is what you're hearing when you talk to colleagues, other county states attorneys, right?
Absolutely. We're all going through the same issue, the same process. Again, trying to get these cases to trial in the time frame that they've now made it even faster, which I find, everyone wants a right to speedy trial, and we all agree as prosecutors that it should be as quick as possible. But the faster you put this on the clock, and then you want us to have all the evidence ready to go, no cracks that aren't filled, everything ready, and you want it done in 90 days. And it's like, you know what? Obviously, people who pass this don't practice. They don't know the situation, that's just almost an impossibility. But everyone else will figure out a way to make it happen.
One other matter before we let you go, and that was the response from the General Assembly and the governor to the challenge to the purge law that made them refashion it and have to fight it out in court. And that is that you cannot challenge state laws except in Cook or Sangamon counties. As a suburban state's attorney, how does that sit with you?
Well, it seems like it was a punishment, and again, I assume that's what it was for rulings that they were getting in counties they didn't like, so they just set it up that they could go where they are. I mean, I understand it from a practical standpoint. The Attorney General's offices are in those two counties, but I thought it was very convenient after they got some bad rulings to just change the rules. We'll just change the rules and make it, why not Kendall County? We could just do everything in Kendall County. There's nothing wrong here. We have nice, places to stay, good places to eat.
Yeah, it's too far. It's too far from Cook County. Yeah.
Too far from Cook County.
Yeah.
It was a retaliatory action. Not surprised. But again, we just keep playing by the rules that they've put forward to us, and again, we'll figure it out and ultimately hope the right decisions come down.
All right. He is Eric Weiss, State's Attorney for Kendall County. Eric, thanks as always. Good luck out there.
All right. Thanks, Dan and Amy. Have a good one.
Thank you. You too. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
It's summertime, and you want to keep the shop, warehouse, and other doors open for ventilation. Air circulation improves the well-being of your employees and customers, but open doors can let in the uninvited, like strangers, birds, rodents, and bugs. Industrial Door Company of Chicago, Inc. can help solve the problem with a full line of commercial screen door products designed with these specific problems in mind. Call Industrial Door Company of Chicago, Inc. now. Also, regular scheduled maintenance is the key, and Industrial Door Company of Chicago, Inc. has multiple levels of maintenance programs for your company's needs and budget. They'll ensure your doors, grills, gates, and dock equipment are working to specification to increase the useful life of your doors. Visit their website to see a range of products and services at industrialdoor.com. Call anytime, 847-258-5620. Their team will be there to assist in designing a solution that works best for you. Since 1982, the Industrial Door Company of Chicago, Inc. takes care of your doors so you can take care of business.
I met another one, a very satisfied Balance of Nature customer. She's been taking Balance of Nature for almost 10 years, she said, and she loves it. She swears by it. She said, I just feel good knowing that I'm putting some fruits and veggies in my body because don't get enough on my own, and that's really where Balance of Nature comes in. 31 whole fruits and vegetables, real food, real nutrition. So get your health back. Be proactive. Do something for yourself. Don't wait any longer. Give it a try. The number to call is 800-246-8751. That's 800-246-8751. Use discount code Chicago. First-timers get free shipping and 35% off their first preferred order of fruits and veggies, or go online to balanceofnature.com, discount code Chicago.
Hi, folks. Dennis Prager here. Are you worried about investing in the stock market, especially with Joe Biden in office? Do you trust the economy? What if you could invest in a secure, collateralized portfolio with a high fixed rate of return that's not correlated to the stock market or the Fed? A portfolio where you will know what each monthly statement will look like with no surprises. Your interest is compounded daily. You are paid monthly, and there are no fees. You can turn your income on or off, compound it, whatever you choose, and there is absolutely no loss of principal if you ever need your money back. Just go to investyrefy.com. That's invest, the letter Y, then REFY.com. Or call 888-YREFY, that's Y-R-E-F-Y, 24. You can earn a fixed rate of return of up to 10.25%. Just call 888-YREFY24 or go to investyrefy.com and tell them Dennis Prager sent you.
By the way, with regard to J.B. Pritzker and Northwestern Law, I have it on good authority that when he was applying to Northwestern Law, that a higher up there told a less higher up, figure out a way to get this guy through this school. And I think it was
'cause
more
they
like
need their donations.
More like get this dope through the school. That sort of was the gist of it. And the person who tells the story says, it wasn't easy, but I did it.
Wow.
And now today, the Northwestern Pritzker School of Law. That's how it works. You can, speaking of which, you can shed that fat and be slimmer for the summer. No more wearing cover-ups or T-shirts in the pool, Jelly Belly. NJ Diet will help you the natural way. No shots, no hormones, and no surgery. You'll lose a contractually guaranteed 20 to 40-plus pounds in only 40 days with NJ Diet. They use your hair, saliva, and blood work along with bioenergetic scans to personalize natural solutions and supplements that get your body into the fat-burning zone so you can finally lose the weight. Then NJ Diet uses DNA info to help you keep it off. Best of all, it's contractually guaranteed. You're fully supervised the entire time to make sure you're burning fat, not just losing water. And you even get Dr. T's personal email and phone number. Dr. T, Dr. Turovitz, is the founder of NJ Diet. NJ Diet has locations close by in Skokie and Oak Brook, or is available from home with live online video consultations. Call 855-5-NJ-DIET or schedule your consult today at njdiet.com. That's njdiet.com.
If we've learned anything from recent news, it's that unexpected things are happening. Your gut tells you there's something very wrong going on, and all the evidence suggests that there is. Government emails are hacked. There's talk of how to fight World War III, and trade of grains and food are being disrupted. Those in charge say everything's fine. Stop noticing, but you know better. It's time to invest in self-reliance and emergency food storage now, more than ever. My Patriot Supply, the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, is the place you can trust. Go to mypatriotsupply.com and secure their best-selling 3-month emergency food kits. Each contains tasty breakfasts, lunch, and dinners, averaging over 2,000 calories per day. Get at least one food kit for each family member. For a limited time, save 25%, plus get free shipping on all their 3-month emergency food kits. Go to mypatriotsupply.com today. It's time to prepare for what's coming. mypatriotsupply.com.
Freedom and liberty are important to all of us in Illinois, from Rockford to Carbondale, from Quincy to Decatur. If you're looking for civil, intellectual conversations with those shaping the future of freedom, try the Future of Freedom podcast with me, Scott Bertrand. We speak with leaders across the country in the greater conservative and libertarian movements. In-depth conversations about where the next intellectual battles will happen across the country. It's the Future of Freedom podcast. Find it at americastalking.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
More on J6 with Dakota Wood at 7:07.
It is now 7 a.m. WIND Chicago.
Home. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
There's nothing. Yeah. Our 2 vehicles gone, our apartment gone, the whole complex.
He and thousands of others who are now in hotels or shelters after Lahaina burned to the ground.
I've authorized a comprehensive review of what happened in the early hours of the fire and the hours thereafter.
Governor Josh Green says the wildfire traveled 1 mile per minute, and they expect to keep finding victims' bones and human remains in the ruins and ashes. Is up to 96 people confirmed dead.
The local government here is still limiting access to the town of Lahaina, devastated by fire, saying it's still unsafe and that they're still recovering bodies. In one case, an entire family of 4 was identified as victims. The hundreds still remain missing. People are urged to provide DNA swabs so loved ones could be identified.
That's Fox Weather's Max Gordon in Maui. A sheriff's deputy was shot and wounded early this morning in Muskegon County, Michigan. He's expected to survive, but the gunman's dead, killed when officers attempted to arrest him after a chase. In Mississippi, 6 white police officers who already pleaded guilty to federal charges in the January assault of 2 black men are expected to plead guilty to state charges today, including home invasion, obstructing justice, and conspiracy to hinder prosecution, accused of trying to cover up the assault that included torturing and injuring the 2 victims. Russia keeps bombarding Ukraine, where 8 civilians are reported dead in the last 24 hours, but it could have been worse.
Ukraine says Russia launched 3 waves of attack on Odessa overnight, 15 drones and 8 missiles in all. Every one, the Ukrainian Air Force claims, was shot down. The governor of the Odessa region tells us falling debris caused damage. Russia's increased its attacks on the port city of Odessa in recent weeks since the end of a deal allowing Ukraine to export grain.
That's Fox's Jonathan Savage. America's listening to Fox News.
71 degrees at 7:02 on AM 560, The Answer, and good morning. I'm Mike Scott. There is a flood watch up for much of our listening area beginning at 10 a.m. A teen is among 4 shot on the city's south side Sunday night. It happened near the Washington Park neighborhood in the 5700 block of South Payne Drive. A 16-year-old, 2 18-year-old men, and a 53-year-old man were shot after an argument. 3 are dead after another violent weekend in Chicago. At least 19 were shot in total, unofficially. Of those killed, 1 victim was found dead in the Austin neighborhood Sunday morning, another in the Pilsen neighborhood on the west side. Police are still looking for a suspect in the fatal shooting of a teen in Highland Park. Officers responded to the 2300 block of Green Bay Road around 11:30 yesterday morning. The 16-year-old victim was rushed to a nearby hospital and later pronounced dead. Investigators are still looking for the suspect who tried to bike away, abandoned the bike, and later fled on foot. A firefighter critically hurt in a Norwood Park neighborhood blaze on Friday. This morning is showing signs of improvement. Chicago Fire saying in a social media update, the firefighter remains in serious but stable condition. As the battle over sporting rifles that some anti-gun activists call assault rifles is heating up in Illinois, Second Amendment supporters are coming to the aid of a local suburban firearms dealer. A rally and fundraiser was held Sunday at Law Weapons in Naperville. The owner says he's lost 85% of his business since both the state and Naperville banned the sale of so-called assault weapons. Robert Bevis says he's had to lay off employees and max out his credit cards. Meantime, Governor J.B. Pritzker signed House Bill 218 Saturday, meaning the local Illinois firearm industry can be targeted with legal action for allegedly contributing to unsafe conditions or advertising to kids. Bevis says the measure is another example of an infringement of his rights.
Look, automobile manufacturers are not responsible for people that drive drunk and crash their cars. You know, we can't be held responsible for the way somebody uses a firearm if it's in a nefarious way.
On Friday, a divided Illinois Supreme Court upheld the state assault weapons ban. Bevis is appealing to the U.S. Supreme Court to step in. Cubs lost to Toronto 11-4. White Sox lost to the Brew Crews 7-3 at guaranteed rate. Sox and Cubs tomorrow. The news, a service of the AM 560 mobile app. Download the AM 560 mobile app at 560theanswer.com/mobile. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
You've heard me discuss how my everyday aches and pains were affecting my daily life before I started taking Relief Factor. You've also heard me talk to you about how my friends and family have found relief from their aches and pains with Relief Factor. Well, let me tell you about Gary from California. Gary says, I cannot thank you enough. I am 62 years old and have just started taking Relief Factor. I've never felt better and will recommend Relief Factor to all my baby boomer friends. Well, thanks for writing, Gary. 3 weeks from now, you could be doing the things you enjoy doing. Your first step to living the life you love, free from aches and pains, could just be to order the 3-week Quick Start for only $19.95. After trying Relief Factor, over 500,000 people have gone on to order more. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF to find out more about this offer. That's ReliefFactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF. Live your best life and feel the difference with Relief Factor.
Balance of Nature, changing the world one life at a time.
My son was saying, Mom, why are you paying so much for this? The supplement store has the exact same thing. And I said, no, they don't. You know, because he was telling me that they have similar products as Balance of Nature. But then when he came over to my house and he looked at the label of the Balance of Nature about all the, ingredients and everything, he realized, oh yeah, this is a superior product.
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first preferred order with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. That's 1-800-246-8751. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Tony Dreyfus, founder and president of Metropolis Coffee Company and a proud new customer of Signature Bank. We're a 19-year-old specialty coffee roaster located in the heart of Chicago. Some of your favorite restaurants and cafes serve our coffee. As a small business manufacturer, we understand the importance of working with the right bank, and that's why we made the move to Signature Bank. We were tired of the impersonal service that our large bank had provided. A friend referred us to Signature Bank, and their team was on site to understand our operations firsthand. They provided us the working capital to continue our successful business operations and to fuel our ambitions for innovation and growth. We now have the flexibility to grow at our own pace. That personal touch, you can't find that at a large bank, but we found it at Signature, and we can't thank them enough.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Let Signature Bank turn your business vision into reality. Visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
7:08. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time is the service of Fox Valley Coins. Currently buying all gold and silver bars, coins, silver dollars, rare date, proof, and mint sets. Visit foxvalleycoins.com. Eden's 22 minutes, Lake Cook Road to the junction. The Kennedy 46 and climbing from O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. The Eichen 33 390 to the old post office. Outbound 31 back out to 390. Stevenson on the inbound side jammed up central to Kedzie. Right now it is 23 in from the Tri-State to DuSable Lakeshore Drive. And the Dan Ryan 15 minutes, 95th to the Burns Circle interchange. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast for the start of the school week with our meteorologist Steve Williams.
A flood watch in effect this afternoon. Periods of rain, thunderstorm. The high today 72. Partly cloudy, breezy rain tonight, low 62. And then breezy tomorrow morning, a shower in spots, and then clouds and sun. The high tomorrow 77. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560. The Answer.
72 at O'Hare. Skies are cloudy. Next news 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560. The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by the Money Hour Radio Show, Saturday afternoons at 3. Brought to you by Pure Shale Financial Group at pureshalefinancial.com.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Last hour, we spoke about the interview that Stephen Sund, the Capitol Police Chief, on January 6, 2021, 30 years on the job. The interview he gave to Tucker Carlson recently as a reset to an interview he gave to Tucker Carlson previously that never aired on Fox, so he sat down with Tucker again to go through it. He's got a book out that details from his perspective, from his perch, what happened and didn't happen on January 6th, and the questions that he still has about why things were done so differently than they were normally for events like a large protest on Capitol grounds or near Capitol grounds. And last hour we talked about how he was cut out of the information loop. He now knows from reports, both in the press as well as GAO reports, IG reports, that Mark Milley, Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, Acting Secretary of Defense at the time, Chris Miller, and others were not sharing with the Capitol Police Chief the threats that they were picking up. They were not giving him the threat assessment that they were making. We don't know why. On the day of, when he requested National Guard backup, particularly when things got out of control because his officers were getting rolled, his own description, it took 71 minutes for the sergeants at arms in the House and the Senate, who worked for Pelosi and McConnell respectively, to give him approval for National Guard backup. And it was driven by whatever Nancy Pelosi's sergeant at arms, a guy named Irving, wanted to do. 71 minutes. But even after he got approval, he's on the phone with the Pentagon, as he describes, trying to get the actual personnel. And he's getting responses like, we don't like the optics. We want your guys to be front line. He's getting jerked around, essentially. It's not until 6 o'clock that night, so 4 hours after he got approval from the sergeants at arms, which was 71 minutes after he requested it, and requested it again and again as things were starting to unwind there, that any National Guardsman showed up. It took so long that the clarion call they put out to law enforcement agencies up and down the eastern seaboard, New Jersey State Police arrived on the Capitol grounds before National Guardsmen were green-lighted to provide backup. National Guardsmen who were within eyeshot of what was happening at the Capitol.
And they were sent to the Armory on the other side of town and then never showed up until 6 o'clock.
So why the refusal to provide backup when things started to get out of control, when the rioting started? Also, he talked about the threat assessments. And based on what they were suggesting, that I'm talking about the intel agencies and these people in leadership positions at the Pentagon, the possibility of members of Congress being targeted, possibility of police being targeted, that there were some people who were domestic terrorists who were going to use this as cover to potentially engage in acts of terror. This was the threat assessment we now know after the fact. And the Capitol Police Chief was never told, Stephen Sund was never told leading up to that day or on that day or since. So given that, this other question, were there feds in the crowd? Christopher Wray has no idea 2.5 years later.
Oh, that's right, when he testified under oath. No clue.
But of course, if you believed there were domestic terrorists that were potentially going to use a Trump rally near the Capitol as cover to create mayhem or to harm people, then of course the normal protocol would be to have federal law enforcement among the crowd, just as you would like at an inauguration. This is how Stephen Sund describes it in answering that question about federal presence on that day.
They started asking me about feds in the crowd. And I was like, no, I would have been told. I said, no, we're getting word that there was feds in the crowd. And I said, no, I would have been told. I've got lots of friends with the Bureau. They all have my cell phone number. They would have told me. You know, thinking about that, and Jill Sanborn's testimony in 2021 where she said they were taking overt action to keep certain people from coming to January 6th to Washington, D.C. That's big for FBI to start taking overt action. I mean, that's not covert, overt. That's a big deal. Fast forward to February of this year, 2023, in the GAO report that says on January 3rd, the FBI was tracking 4 domestic terrorists that we're talking about coming to Washington, D.C., the Washington field office, their AOR, area of responsibility. By January 6th, they were tracking 18 or 19, it's in the GAO report, domestic terrorists. So think about that. They have 18 or 19 domestic terrorists coming to this event. So of course they're going to have resources on them, and they're not, you're not going to be just putting one agent. You're going to have multiples. So it'd be multiple with that. And I don't know how many they actually had there. So that would be regular standard police work. So I would be surprised by that, but not to share that in the intelligence, that's concerning.
Right. So he was cut out of the loop on that too. But be clear, he doesn't know. He doesn't know what kind of presence there was. Nobody does, including the FBI director, apparently. Or and he's not making any conclusions about what happened and what role federal law enforcement had.
Nowhere do I want to imply or indicate that I feel that agents instigated this or in any way like that. I'm never saying that. I haven't said that. And a lot of these agencies came to my defense on January 6th, FBI,
Yes.
Secret Service, stuff like that. So we just want to make sure that's clear. But there would have been some coordination. And when you look at it and you think with the intelligence coming in, if you think there's 19 domestic terrorists coming to Washington, D.C., somehow that would have been included in some type of report.
Not the reports that he got, though. Why didn't he get the intel? Why didn't he get the backup?
It's like they set him up to fail.
What do we know about federal presence in the crowd? There's another one.
Okay, what?
Ray Epps, of course, the infamous Ray Epps.
Who is Ray Epps?
Why hasn't he been detained and prosecuted as an instigator of the unrest?
The next day to see him at what's called the Pennsylvania Avenue Gate. It's one of the two fence lines I had down at the West Front. And he's there, and he clearly sees the banner, the metal crowd control barriers that are up with the signs saying restricted, So he knows that's a restricted area. And he's up there, and you see him lean in, and he whispers in somebody's ear, and he covers his mouth in such a way so you can't read his lips or anything. Whispers in somebody's ear, and that person moments later is attacking my officers. That's suspicious as hell to me. It raised a lot of concerns.
Suspicious as hell. Here's his upshot on January 6th. Stephen Sun's summary of January 6th after, providing 55 minutes of detail to Tucker Carlson.
This didn't have to happen. This was screwed up from the get-go. Didn't have to happen. Numerous opportunities to prevent it from happening. Numerous opportunities from preventing my men and women from going through what they had to, and it never happened. There was never that opportunity to stop that train.
And you know what Sun's reward was? He was removed from his post as Capitol Police Chief. His director of Intel, so it's like assistant soup chief for Intel, was named the acting. So the assistant chief of Intel, who would be essentially the point person for Intel gathering, and this is in part at least an Intel failure, maybe on both ends, certainly on the Intel agency's end, according to Chief Sun, maybe on Capitol Police's end too. She's named the acting chief. She gets a no confidence vote from the rank and file because they're so upset about the treatment of Sun. Where does she end up? You'll love this.
Where?
Chief of Campus Police at UC Berkeley.
Oh.
Right across from Nancy Pelosi's district.
Yeah, of course.
Uh-huh. Nothing to see here.
Good salary, too.
No questions to be answered. I wish Tucker would have asked about Trump's response, what he thinks he knew or didn't know, since his response has been so criticized. I wish he would ask specifically about Christopher Wray, since the FBI is so central here. And I also wish he would have asked about the Capitol Police officers who testified before that J6 Star Chamber and became cause celebs for the D.C. press corps and by extension the Marxist left, because they put this all at the doorstep of Donald Trump. I wish that would have been included in the conversation, but it wasn't. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Dakota Wood, who served America for 2 decades in the Marine Corps, Senior Research Fellow for Defense Programs at the Heritage Foundation. Dakota, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, it's great to be with you on a Monday morning. Hope you guys had a great weekend.
You too. So this Stephen Sun, this extended interview, he's written a book about it. He's got 100 pages of detail on, from his perspective, what did and didn't happen on January 6th. I mean, why is it that we can't get answers? We get bits and pieces. The GAO and IG get bits and pieces. And this is a recurring experience. Get bits and pieces, but we can never get the big answers to the big questions. Why wasn't Intel shared with Capitol Police, with Stephen Sun? Why didn't he get the reinforcements that he said he needed? Why was the offer of National Guard by Donald Trump denied in the first place? Why don't we know what the feds were or were not doing, what their footprint was on that day? Why?
Well, I mean, your whole monologue there was talking about the complexity of this situation. And until you get everybody together in one room to hash this out over a period of time, it'll take, I think, literally years for the story to be pieced together. And we'll have some great made-for-TV movies on the conspiracies, whether they occurred or not. But we've got this intersection of federal and local. You have a huge firewalls that exist for a reason between military and civilian law enforcement and the various intelligence agencies. You can classify the FBI as domestic intelligence as opposed to, external, National Security Agency or CIA, right? You have authorities at the D.C. level, which is a federal administered zone, unlike a governor controlling a state and National Guard or a city within a state. So there are different rules that govern who can do what in D.C. So I'm just saying it's the complexity of everything and the various agendas that make it almost impossible in a short period of time to figure out who did what.
Well, it's made more complex by refusing to ask questions of people who made decisions. So, I mean, the sergeants at arms first of all, and you have
slow rolling of providing answers.
Right, and you have. I mean, I understand, and certainly Chief Sund understands the different rules for different agencies, but you also have these joint committees, these interagency bodies that share information. We're supposed to, as a caller mentioned earlier in the show, I thought we were supposed to learn that lesson after 9/11, that we're not going to silo information. We're going to coordinate, which is why we have a DHS, which is why we have a DNI. And yet here we are again in its most innocent construction, trying to explain why the point person with the force that is front line is cut out of the threat assessments being made by federal military as well as law enforcement officials. That makes no sense. It just doesn't make any sense. So Miller, the sergeants at arms, Pelosi, McConnell. I mean, it's not like we don't know who is in the decision, is in the command structure. So put them on the dime and ask them questions.
Well, I think there's 2 points that you have pointed out routinely on your show. We have discussed before. One is the fact that humans are involved, and humans come in with either their own agendas or with fear. How they tolerate risk, is there decision-making authority? Are they looking over their shoulder? I mean, this is a human element. The other piece is the politicization of many of these agencies. So the Department of Justice is not seeking truth and justice anymore. They've become an instrument of the executive branch, the White House in particular, and they receive through the political appointees put in charge of running that department, who they were going to prosecute or investigate, how they will go about doing that. Do they make up their own evidence, like the Steele dossier and Russian collusion, all that stuff? Right. I mean, these are examples where these institutions have been, not fatally, but almost fatally damaged by being leveraged as political instruments of power. And then when you get everybody into a room, they carry these agendas in there with them, right? So do you want the D.C. police chief roped into these conversations or not? What are the potential political consequences in that chaos surrounding Donald Trump, the votes being cast, the electorate, being, state of electors being assessed, what was Pence, doing? I mean, it was just a crazy, crazy time. And to bring all of those agendas into a room in just a couple of hours when decisions have to be made, and you've got these massive bureaucratic processes like who can order guard to do what and when, how do you notify people, how do you properly equipment, do they have the training, rules of engagement, all of those sorts of things is just one example of why it was such a crazy day.
It looks and it smells political, doesn't it, to you at all?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, no, 100%.
I mean, shots were fired in the Capitol, and they let him, he was still hanging for 71 minutes, and then it took 4 more hours for them to arrive.
Yeah, so, when you dial 911, there's a carefully crafted system where you've got somebody that answers the call, they've got the ability to notify police or an ambulance or whatever, and you have folks that show up within minutes later. Mobilizing the National Guard, right, or having various agencies wanting to share information, uncertainty, 19 domestic terrorists. Well, is that a law enforcement issue or is this a military issue? Who has the authority? What information might be shared if it hasn't been corroborated before? Do people act on suspicion or hints, right? It's just an extraordinarily complicated situation and made worse by it being all political.
Well, right. And since Stephen Sund has been around the block a few times,
mm-hmm.
and he's been through events of this magnitude that are political in nature, as he described in his interview, and this was so different than any other similar event that he's participated in his role at Capitol Police. One has to wonder if, well, maybe there was something purposeful about keeping him out of the loop, because maybe he wouldn't go along with whatever was going on.
That could be the case, and we're speculating now. But I think in other
Absolutely.
events, they're known ahead of time and they're planned. So if somebody decides to have a march, they have to get a permit. If you're going to have, an election event or something like that, the planning goes into place, like for inauguration, weeks or months in advance. People know that that's going to happen. This thing that happened on January 6th was almost spur of the moment, right? It's a coming together.
Well, was it? Well, was it? I mean, it was, and maybe it wasn't. I mean, again, I'm just going by the threat assessments that Sund is reporting. 18 domestic terrorists that are watching for presence on or near the Capitol on that day, and so on and so forth. So some of it was spur of the moment. For some people that attended, obviously it was spur of the moment. But maybe there were other forces there that had made some plans on both sides of the law and order continuum.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the words you're using, which I agree with, that it adds to the cloudiness. May, could be, perhaps, just a lack of concrete information, but lots of statements that are being made, right? So in social media, people post all kinds of wacky things. How does an intel analyst or a law enforcement official sort through the crazy talk to find out the nugget of actual truth? Can you cross-reference things to say this guy from Minnesota or Texas or whatever has posted certain things, and we think he will actually follow through with some action and has coordinated with other people funded by some kind of weird, money in the background or connections to a political party. I mean, it takes a while to coordinate and get a clear picture on that. So I'm not making excuses for anybody at all. There could have been a lot of coordination, but how many people need to do that to be effective in a crowd of 10,000, right? So,
right. And one of the ways to tamp down the conspiracy theories is for people in positions of authority who made decisions leading up to that day and on that day to be forthright and explain themselves.
Completely agree.
But we don't get that.
Completely.
Yeah.
No.
Dakota Wood, he served America for 2 decades in the Marine Corps. He's now a senior research fellow for defense programs at the Heritage Foundation. Dakota, thank you as always.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
I'm Dave Nissen, CEO of PKF Mueller. As a CPA firm, we have been serving our business clients since 1968 by providing audit, accounting, tax, advisory, and consulting services. We as trusted advisors go beyond what our clients hired us to do by thinking outside the box to understand their operations and industry. We want to discover ways to increase their net income and cash flow by reducing costs or increasing efficiencies. To this end, PKF Mueller provides several client value-added services through strategic relationships. Our partners are specialists and serve the same type of clients that we do and add value by reducing our clients' overall electric and gas costs, discovering inaccuracies and overcharges on utility bills, assisting in financing of real estate, and helping to reduce uncollectible accounts and bad debt expenses. To learn more about our value-added service providers and how we can assist, call me directly at 630-524-5274 or dnissen@pkfmueller.com.
Can't wait to do it. Take Balance of Nature. I think I might take it early today, maybe around 8 o'clock. Why? I'm not getting enough fruits and veggies on my own, and that's where Balance of Nature comes in. The fruits and vegetables are powered after an advanced vacuum cold process, which stabilizes the maximum nutrient content. 31, whole fruits and vegetables, real food, real nutrition. And people who take it swear they have increased energy, the ability to keep doing the things they love even as they age, because every day we're getting a little older, folks. So get your health back, be proactive, get balance of nature. 800-246-8751, 800-246-8751. Use discount code Chicago, or simply go online to balanceofnature.com. Discount code Chicago.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right. Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
737, Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson on the Hunter Biden special counsel, as well as all things COVID-related, including those royalty payments to Fauci and Collins. 737.
Yeah, was COVID pre-planned by an elite group of people? We'll start there, too, with them as well. But now let's head into that newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
71 degrees at 7:33, and there is a flood watch up for much of our listening area beginning at 10 a.m. Officials in Maui County in Hawaii say the death toll from the Lahaina wildfire is now up to 96. Governor Josh Green of Hawaii posting a video update saying the destruction and misery is widespread.
The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is already beginning to view this site not just as a disaster, but as a long-term recovery. They will be helping us in partnership with active military and our reserves and all of our partners. They will be active in the deconstructing of the disaster area, and we'll have to remove the debris.
Early estimates say those fires caused nearly $6 billion in damage. A Hawaii congresswoman who represents Maui is calling siren failures during the wildfires tragic.
Everybody who has ever lived in Hawaii knows the warning sirens because that is our first line of defense.
Speaking on CBS's Face the Nation, Jill Takuda added that electricity outages and lack of cell phone coverage in some areas also contributed to many not getting warning signals. 8 people are injured after a shooting in downtown Memphis. It happened around 2:30 yesterday morning. The victims right now listed as ages 19 to 54. GOP presidential hopeful Chris Christie believes former President Donald Trump will sign the so-called loyalty pledge to get himself on the debate stage.
He might not also, but I would not be the least bit surprised if he did. This is about Donald Trump, keeping the attention on Donald Trump.
Christie on ABC's This Week. 2 pilots are recovering after their Soviet-era fighter jet crashed near Detroit yesterday. The privately owned MiG-23 was participating in the Thunder over Michigan Air Show, one of the largest in the nation, again, near Detroit.
It wasn't until 2 minutes later when the police and all the boats off the lake all made their way over to the people who had parachuted out that we realized this is not a show.
Witness Lyda Berry, video posted on social media, shows 2 ejecting from the plane before it crashed into an apartment complex parking lot. No injuries on the ground. Police are still looking for a suspect in a fatal shooting of a teen in Highland Park. The 16-year-old victim yesterday was rushed to a local hospital, later pronounced dead. Investigators say he was approached by another male on a bike who pulled the gun and shot him. A firefighter critically injured in a Norwood Park blaze on Friday this morning is showing signs of improvement. Chicago Fire saying in a social media update the firefighter remains in serious but now stable condition. And a local political science professor says mainstream support in the U.S. for political violence is on the rise.
It's not just about Oath Keepers, Proud Boys. It is now breaching into the mainstream, and we're seeing the consequences of that.
On CBS's Face the Nation, University of Chicago professor Robert Pape surveyed nearly 50 million Americans that they believe the use of force is justified regarding a second Trump presidency. 30 million supported using force, they say, to prevent the former president from returning to the White House. Chicago sports. Cubs an 11-4 loss to Toronto, while the White Sox lost to the Brew Crews 7-3. The news, the service of Cabino Environmental. Home and business owners use Cabino oil stain removal because it's the most powerful oil stain lifting formula on the market. Cabino oil stain remover is available at all 8 RentalMax locations. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Hey everybody, Charlie Kirk here. Are you worried about investing in the stock market, especially with Joe Biden in office? Do you really trust the economy? What if you could invest in a secure, collateralized portfolio with a high fixed rate of return that's not correlated to the stock market or the Fed? A portfolio where you'll know what each monthly statement will look like with no surprises. Your interest is compounded daily. You're repaid monthly, and there are no fees. You can turn your income on or off, compound it, whatever you choose. And get this, there's absolutely no loss of principal if you ever need your money back. Just go to investrefy.com. That's invest, the letter Y, then refy.com, or call 888-YREFI, 888-YREFY24. You can earn a fixed rate of return or up to 10.25%. Just call 888-YREFY24 or go to investrefy.com and tell them Charlie Kirk sent you.
Hi, we're Comparion Insurance Agency. Right now you're thinking, Comparion, never heard of them. We know. We also know that you have no idea that Comparion Insurance agents are local and provide expert advice. So to help it stick, we're going to say local agent 4 times in the next 15 seconds. Ready? Go. Our local agents know you and your community. Our local agents offer insurance from top carriers. Our local agents have minty fresh breath.
Find us at ComparionInsurance.com. Comparion Insurance Agency. Local agents, expert advice.
And there's number 4.
Wireless headphones. That'll be $200.
I'll use my Capital One Quicksilver card.
Now that's a hit. You used the Capital One Quicksilver card, which makes you the hero of every purchase. With Quicksilver, you earn unlimited 1.5% cash back on every purchase everywhere.
I wanted running music, but unlimited 1.5% cash back is pretty heroic.
Good instincts. Every hero needs a theme song. The Capital One Quicksilver card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
There is a place in northern Illinois that people have come from all around the globe seeking treasure.
It's amazing. I didn't know what to expect, but when I got there, I was surrounded by all kinds of gold and silver.
An actual place where you're surrounded by treasure?
I've known that gold and silver were a good investment, but I really didn't want to buy it through the mail. At Fox Valley Coins, I basically walked in, picked out what I wanted, paid cash, and walked out with gold and silver.
Walk in with paper and walk out with actual gold and silver bars. For decades, Fox Valley Coins has traded paper dollars for actual gold and silver. They buy and sell. The treasure map is available at foxvalleycoins.com. They are on Route 59, 1 light north of I-88 in Naperville, Illinois. Again, for info and the map, seek foxvalleycoins.com.
The New York Times calls BritBox the best of British telly. Extreme Brilliant series you can only find on BritBox. Start a free trial at BritBox.com.
7:40. Let's get a quick update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Edens 22, Lake Cook Road to the junction. The Kennedy right now is at 55 minutes. O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. The Ike, 50 minutes, 390 to the old post office. On the outbound side of the Ike, an accident with a left lane blocked involving a semi. It's in the avenues between 17th and the Tri-State. Stevenson 42 from 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. And the Ryan both ways tough, but especially on the inbound side, 21 in 95th into the Burns Circle. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. A cooler day ahead, periods of rain, maybe a thunderstorm. Watch for us flooding as well today, high 72. 72 right now at O'Hare. Next news coming up at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Boy, there was some mind-bending spin being offered by congressional Democrats over the weekend in defense of Merrick Garland's appointment of Delaware U.S. Attorney David Weiss to now be special counsel in the investigation of Hunter Biden. I mean, this is so obviously an attempt to insulate the big guy from any investigative awkwardness. This is a way to say ongoing investigation, can't talk about it, can't come to testify before the House Oversight Committee. This is to put a tourniquet on the Biden Inc. operation. And because Bill Barr failed to appoint a special counsel when he could have, Merrick Garland, being the company man that he is appointing a special counsel to protect the big guy. That's what this is.
Yeah, it's a form of obstruction.
But that's not what you heard from congressional Democrats. This is, I mean...
What do you have?
Holy cow. As Bill Buckley used to say about Clinton's speechifying, be prepared to drop an ashtray on the ground to make sure gravity still exists after listening to this. Representative Jerry Conley, a Democrat from Virginia, had this to say to that Rachel Maddow impersonator, Chris Hayes, on MSNBC. Jerry Conley, on Garland, this appointment? Truth, justice, and the American way, baby.
It is Merrick Garland being Merrick Garland. He's crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's. He is ensuring objectivity and fairness and transparency in the process. And he's letting the chips fall where they may. I'm not particularly worried about it, but I do think that it puts Republicans in a bind. They're the ones who called for a special counsel, so we gave them a special counsel. They're the ones who accused the Department of Justice of being, a dark state, deep state entity that's out to get Trump. But here, that same entity is, in fact, holding the president's son, the Democratic president's son, to account. Their heads must be spinning tonight with their own illogic.
I mean, I kept hearing all weekend, David Weiss, though, he was a Trump-appointed judge, but he's also the same one attorney, but he's also the one who gave Hunter Biden a sweet plea heart deal.
No, it's not Trump being targeted by the Department of Justice. It's Hunter Biden being targeted. Hunter Biden is being targeted by Republicans. Donald Trump is not being targeted by the Department of Justice. You understand?
A lot of people make assumptions about people in public life getting a special deal, wink, blink. Often it's the opposite, that they're going to get no corners cut at all. They're gonna have the book thrown at them because nobody wants to be perceived as showing favoritism in the justice system or in the police unfolding acts. So I think you're right. I think Hunter Biden's being subjected here to a level of not only scrutiny but accountability that most mere mortals would not.
Not just Jerry Connolly, Dan Goldman, Mr. All the big I was doing was trying to be polite. If your son says, say hi to my friends, you say hi to your friends. You don't want to be impolite. That's all that's happening.
And they're talking about the weather, Dan.
Dan Goldman on the special counsel. The Hunter Biden plea deal fell apart, not because of anything that David Weiss did in consultation with Hunter Biden's attorneys. Not because of the unusual nature of open-ended immunity, for example, but because of the threat of Donald Trump weaponizing the Justice Department. Try and follow this. I dare you.
Well, no one knows what the evidence is. So when they say this is a sweetheart deal, they are blowing smoke because they have no idea. And so this is, to my mind, having been a federal prosecutor for 10 years, not at all a sweetheart deal. This is something that is routinely treated in a civil way. through civil penalties, not criminally. And yet Hunter Biden was charged with crimes. This is a 5-year investigation. They looked at everything. We know that from testimony in the Oversight Committee. They had foreign bank records. They had domestic bank records. They had hundreds of thousands of documents. And this is ultimately what they thought they could charge. Now, in the ordinary course, you would not give immunity for other conduct than what is charged. But this is not the ordinary course, because you have a petty, vindictive bully running as for president on the Republican Party who will use revenge and weaponize the Department of Justice to potentially charge Hunter Biden. So even though I'm sure Hunter Biden has confidence that David Weiss will not charge him with additional crimes, they have no confidence that if Donald Trump wins, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice to charge Hunter Biden, go back and charge him. And that's why this plea agreement has broken down, because of the threat of Donald Trump's weaponization of the Department of Justice if he were to become president.
I mean, that is a stretch.
The scariest thing Dan Goldman just said is that he was a federal prosecutor for 10 years. That's the scariest thing he said, actually. You want to know why you have the justice system that you have? Is because somehow people like Dan Goldman were able to practice as federal prosecutors. It's frightening. For more on all this, pleased to be joined by Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson. Senator Johnson, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Morning, guys. Hope you're doing well.
Same to you. So your view on the Garland appointment. Hey, you know, as Jerry Conley said, look, you want a special counsel, you got a special counsel. Pay no attention to the IRS whistleblowers.
So let's just kind of clear up a couple of misconceptions out there, because you always hear this is a Donald Trump-appointed U.S. attorney. That's true, but he was recommended by 2 Democrat senators from the state of Delaware. That's where Joe Biden has ruled for 30, 40, 50 years, okay? So you wouldn't exactly say he's a hard Republican partisan. Another thing we need to point out is an awful lot of the obstruction of this investigation occurred during the Trump administration, which to me proves the point that the Justice Department is already populated by partisans that lean left, and we're protecting Joe Biden even in a Republican administration. What certainly I found during my oversight is that the Justice Department, the FBI, have insulated themselves from congressional oversight. They've insulated themselves as a result from scrutiny from the American public, and they've also insulated themselves from management by a Republican president. So it's not a level playing field. It's not a fair fight. Now, if you have a special counsel appointed by a Republican to investigate Democrat, you probably will get, hopefully, a independent prosecutor that will actually, do a real investigation. We had whistleblowers come to our office from the FBI saying that David Weiss's office did not have the resources to do a proper investigation. To name David Weiss, the fellow who is in charge of really a grotesque plea deal. I mean, the Justice Department was trying to pull the wool over the eyes of the judge in this case. I mean, this was a slippery deal to try and get Hunter Biden off the hook. A few good questions by the judge completely embarrassed the Justice Department, kind of laid bare what they were trying to pull. And this is the person that Merrick Garland's going to appoint as a special counsel. I mean, it's a very bad joke. First of all, DOJ regulations say it should be special counsel should be outside of government. Obviously, David Weiss is in government, but even more important, they ought to be independent. David Weiss must be the least independent human being on earth as a result of this investigation at this point in time. There's no way he should be appointed as special counsel.
Well, I agree. We need a new set of eyes on this. But even CNN's Jake Tapper, Jake Tapper said that this move proves that the whistleblower was right.
Oh, completely. And again, you're not going to get justice out of David Weiss. This is the guy who allowed the statute of limitations to expire or to run on the most serious tax charges. So they were going to let Hunter Biden off the hook, and Hunter Biden still hasn't reported $400,000 of Burisma income that Eric Schwerin warned him about, I think, back in 2019 or earlier. They're just going to walk away from that. You know, it wasn't like Hunter Biden has made restitution for all of the taxes he's already evaded. The Justice Department is going to let him skate and not even pay those taxes as well. This is such a miscarriage of justice to this point in time, and I don't expect anything different. It's just going to get more outrageous now that Merrick Garland has appointed David Weiss as special counsel, and it's going to make it even more difficult for the House oversight committees to obtain information. That's what Senator Grassley and I ran up against when we were investigating the corrupt Russian collusion investigation. You had the John Durham investigation, and they always used that as an excuse. Oh, we'd cooperate with you, but we can't because we have an active investigation. The same dynamic will occur here now with the House investigators.
Well, I mean, and if the IRS whistleblowers were right, then how does David Weiss explain his middling answers on whether or not he previously sought special counsel status? They say he did. He sort of indicated he did. Then he indicated he didn't. Now he's got it to cover both his backside and Merrick Garland's, I suppose, while Merrick Garland is covering the big guy's backside. I mean, this isn't really that complicated to see what they're doing. Now it's a question of what congressional Republicans, particularly in the House, want to do about it. Is this the impetus to move on Merrick Garland to invoke the I word, impeachment inquiry, the I squared phrase?
Yeah, maybe impeachment inquiry to open up more information to Congress. But, obviously the stories between Merrick Garland and David Weiss were contradictory. One of those two individuals were lying to Congress. Which one? And now they both insulated themselves by setting up the special counsel from again, congressional oversight, from public scrutiny. Again, the Department of Justice, the FBI, are experts at insulating themselves from this scrutiny.
Now, Senator Johnson, you also made news over the weekend for your talk with Maria Bartiromo about COVID-19. You're saying that it was pre-planned by an elite group of people. Can you explain?
Well, first of all, that's not what I said.
Okay.
We were talking about the misinformation, the censorship, the sabotage of early treatment, and certainly if you go to Event 201, which took place in November of 2019, this is a tabletop exercise. And by the way, it would make sense to do simulations in the age of CRISPR technology and gene splicing and gene editing. I mean, I have no problem in people running simulations of what we do in the case of a pandemic. But a great deal of emphasis of that was how do we tamp down on misinformation? So they're already contemplating the censorship, setting up the Trusted News Network. The sabotage of early treatment still, to me, is jaw-dropping. The fact that doctors were prevented from using their off-label prescription rights, and the doctors I've been talking to now for about 3 years are pretty convinced that, those generic medications worked and that hundreds of thousands of people lost their lives because they were basically denied access to them. Their licenses were being threatened. And right now we've got Dr. Corey and Dr. Merrick just had their board certifications canceled. That's what the medical establishment is doing to doctors that go out of line. So I think all of that process, I think they're certainly contemplated and pre-planned. I don't think there's any doubt about it. Now, I would also say that the pandemic itself, you just take a look at the cover-up that Anthony Fauci engaged in February 2002. I mentioned in the age of CRISPR technology, it makes sense to hold simulations to be prepared, but it also makes sense to certainly suspect that the coronavirus might have been man-made. I've been pretty convinced it was man-made since pretty early 2020s. I was talking to computational biologists. Why did Anthony Fauci, engineer the misinformation that was preposterous, that had to be a conspiracy theory? Right now, that is the FBI's conclusion with medium confidence level that this was a man-made virus. Why did this go on for years, where a man-made coronavirus was termed a conspiracy theory? Again, all that censorship, all that misinformation coming from government, I think was clearly pre-planned, and that's what I was talking about.
Well, and you've got a criminal referral from Senator Rand Paul on Tony Fauci for lying to Congress about the origins of COVID, saying things he knew to be untrue, and it's certainly not limited to that, but that's a good start. But I assume that's something that you don't expect you see any movement on until and unless there's a new Department of Justice leadership in the next presidential term.
Merrick Garland certainly is not going to investigate or indict Anthony Fauci. I think that's pretty obvious. But I think it's important that we really do investigate who the real Anthony Fauci is. I think Robert Kennedy Jr.'s book is a good place to start if you want to see, exactly why Anthony Fauci was the last person in the world you would ever put in charge of a pandemic response. But unfortunately, that's who was put in charge and remained in charge to disastrous consequences. I don't see how anybody can take a look at our response to COVID. Over 1 million Americans dead, supposedly. I think you have to question those statistics. But again, it was bad because people were denied early treatment, and say that our response was anything but a miserable failure. And a lot of that falls on the shoulders of Anthony Fauci.
Something else, these royalty payments, Collins and Fauci, 58 royalty payments for allowing companies to use their COVID-19 vaccines. And there's a FOIA request documents tens of thousands of royalty payments, 27,000 royalty payments paid to 1,800 NIH employees just from the years 2010 to 2016. You're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in royalty payments. Just even forgetting how much it was distributed to Collins and Fauci, if we ever get those figures. Why are federal government employees getting royalty payments? It's the people's intellectual property that they develop in their official capacity as government employees. How are they getting paid on the side for this?
Well, that's a good question. An even better question is, why doesn't the American public know exactly what they were paid?
Yeah.
Why do we require a court order and a FOIA request to obtain that information when members of Congress have been going after that for years and we can't get to the bottom of it? Again, that's the problem here. Is we have an executive branch that has insulated itself from congressional oversight and public scrutiny across the board in all things. And again, they look at even a president coming into office, particularly a Republican president, and just say, their attitude is this too shall pass. This congressional inquiry, this will pass. This interest on the part of the American public, this will pass. All we have to do is wait them out, and we can just keep going on with our control over our agencies and our control over the American public's lives. People have to start open up their eyes, pull their heads out of the sand. That's what I said to Maria, and start looking at what is happening to our country and what our government is doing, because it is completely out of control, and our freedoms are being trampled on as a result.
He is Senator Ron Johnson, Republican from Wisconsin. Senator Johnson, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Thank you. And he joined us on our Turnkey.pro answer line. Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer,
we'll talk to retired Chief of Detectives Eugene Roy about BLM Brandon's selection for police superintendent at 8:08.
But now let's head straight into that newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
A teen is dead after a shooting in Highland Park. Chicago mayor names a new CPD superintendent. We'll get your reaction. False reports of an active shooter shut down a Chicago concert. 8 robberies on the north and northwest sides make police very busy on Sunday. Firefighter injured in a northwest side blaze is improving today. Cubs get crushed by the Jays. White Sox fall to Milwaukee. And WIND Chicago News Time is 8 o'clock.
They're still trying to find wildfire victims in Maui and identify those already found. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
I lost an uncle, and a cousin and a nephew.
96 people confirmed dead, but Governor Josh Green says crews keep going through ashes and ruins looking for bones and remains in the destroyed town of Lahaina.
It's very difficult for them because they know ultimately they will be sharing with our people that there have been more fatalities. I do expect the numbers to rise.
It's already the deadliest wildfire in the U.S. in more than a century.
Still no official cause on why these fires started, but now a class action lawsuit blames the local power company, saying Hawaiian Electric ignored weather advisories and kept its lines electrified amid the high winds. In a statement to Fox, Hawaiian Electric declined to comment on pending litigation and said it was focused on restoring electricity. The governor of Hawaii now ordering an investigation.
Fox Weather's Max Gordon in Maui. It's back to court in Mississippi for
5 former Rankin County, Mississippi sheriff's deputies and a former police officer from the town of Richland, Mississippi, will be pleading guilty today in a state court of assaulting 2 men in abuse of their power as law enforcement. The officers are white and the victims are black.
Fox's Evan Brown, those officers have already pleaded guilty to federal charges. A sheriff's deputy is recovering in Michigan, expected to be okay after being shot early this morning, chasing a suspect in Muskegon County, killed in a gun battle during an attempted arrest. Drama in the sky on a Malaysia Airlines flight out of Australia that turned around and went back to Sydney when a man with a backpack threatened to blow up the plane. This passenger said after a safe return,
everything that was the scariest, because until then, I don't think people realized we were hostages or the gravity of the situation.
The man was arrested with that incident when they landed. No explosives were found. A jet hit a bird at an air show in Michigan, then crashed. The pilot and passengers safely ejected before that. Nobody on the ground was hurt. America's listening to Fox News.
You've heard me discuss how my everyday aches and pains were affecting my daily life before I started taking Relief Factor.
.72 degrees at 8:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. We have cloudy skies and a flood watch is up for much of our listening area beginning at 10 a.m. A teen is among 4 who were shot on the city's south side Sunday night. Police responding to the Washington Park neighborhood in the 5700 block of South Payne. A 16-year-old boy, 2 18-year-old men, and a 53-year-old man were shot. 3 are dead after a violent weekend in Chicago, at least 19 unofficially shot in total. Police are still looking for the suspect in the fatal shooting of a teen in Highland Park. Officers responded to the 2300 block of Green Bay Road around 11:30 yesterday. The 16-year-old victim was rushed to a local hospital, later pronounced dead. Investigators say the boy was walking on the sidewalk, approached by another male on a bike who pulled a gun and shot him, then escaped on foot. Illinois' moratorium on new nuclear power plant construction will very quietly stay in place after Governor J.B. Pritzker vetoed a bill that would have lifted the ban. The legislation would have invalidated a 1987 law prohibiting new nuclear power facilities from being built. State Senator Sue Rezin says Illinois should be taking advantage of advancements in nuclear technology.
Well, the governor's decision to veto Senate Bill 76 is a short-sighted mistake that will hurt, no doubt, our state's future energy portfolio.
Rezin says she's filed the paperwork to override the veto. Cubs lost to Toronto 11-4, while the White Sox didn't score till the 9th in a 7-3 loss to the Brew Crew at guaranteed rate. 8:04, time for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank. Visit signaturebank.bank for all your commercial banking needs. Now the latest from the Fox Business Network.
I'm Elizabeth McDonald, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Goldman Sachs economists now believe the Federal Reserve could be cutting interest rates next spring. They believe the Fed will start cutting rates by 1/4 percentage point, stabilizing at 3%, though they warn rates could hold steady if inflation doesn't cool fast enough. Foxconn, the company that assembles iPhones, is holding up better than expected. Its profit declined in the recent quarter, but not as much as Wall Street was predicting. The news is giving Apple shares a boost. Tesla is back to cutting prices in China, offering a discount of more than $1,000 on some Model 3 sedans there and about $2,000 on a Model Y SUV. Though the cuts have allowed demand to hold up in China, lower prices are creating concern about how much profit car makers are making per car. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Ginny Coselda, invested in you.
8:05, a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
I'm Elizabeth McDonald, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Balance of Nature's fruits and vegetables in a capsule, changing the world one life at a time.
I've had a high energy level every day, and I've just been doing great. And I just feel like it's a definite advantage to take them. Let me just say one other thing. I mentioned to my doctor that I was taking Balance of Nature, and they said they were very positive about that. And they said that was really good. That's a good product. And so I've been very pleased.
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first preferred order with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. That's 1-800-246-8751. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
You've heard me discuss how my everyday aches and pains were affecting my daily life before I started taking Relief Factor. You've also heard me talk to you about how my friends and family have found relief from their aches and pains with Relief Factor. Well, let me tell you about Gary from California. Gary says, I cannot thank you enough. I am 62 years old and have just started taking Relief Factor. I've never felt better and will recommend Relief Factor to all my baby boomer friends. Well, thanks for writing, Gary. 3 weeks from now, you could be doing the things you enjoy doing. Your first step to living the life you love, free from aches and pains, could just be to order the 3-week Quick Start for only $19.95. After trying Relief Factor, over 500,000 people have gone on to order more. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF to find out more about this offer. That's ReliefFactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF. Live your best life and feel the difference with Relief Factor.
It's a big deal because your finances are a really big deal. Wintrust Community Banks would like to announce our newest and greatest 11-month CD rate with a whopping 5.35% APY. Act now and you can lock in 5.35%. Just go to wintrust.com/locknewrates and start earning more. Annual percentage yield accurate as of May 5th, 2023 and assumes funds remain on deposit until maturity. Minimum daily balance of 1 cent required to obtain APY. $1,000 minimum to open. New money only. Offer may change at any time and without notice. Member FDIC.
Are you considering a unique way to enhance your investment knowledge this year? Then sign up today for the all-inclusive Eagle Financial Publications Cruise. Along with our trusted partner, The Money Show, we're setting sail this December to explore some of the most beautiful and unspoiled destinations in the Caribbean. But this is no ordinary vacation. It's a chance to learn from top Eagle Financial experts like best-selling authors George Gilder, Mark Skousen, and others who will be hosting a series of workshops and seminars throughout the trip. Imagine lounging on the sun deck while discussing investment strategies with like-minded individuals, or enjoying a gourmet dinner at the same table with one of our leading financial authorities. This once-in-a-lifetime cruise is a perfect way to combine education and relaxation to achieve your investment goals. This cruise will sell out quickly, so visit EagleFinancialCruise.com today to learn more and to secure your cabin. That's EagleFinancialCruise.com. Eagle Financial is a division of Salem Media Group.
8:09. Let's get an update on the roads. A service of Star case. When you need to protect your valuable equipment, put it in a Star case. The most dependable road cases you can buy. Designed and made right here in the Midwest. Go to starcase.com to order your case today. In the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, Kennedy right now is a mess. 50 minutes O'Hare to the Burns Circle interchange. Outbound, 30 minutes back out to the big airport. Ike outbound, earlier accident really gumming up the works between Ridgeland and the Tri-State. 22 minutes to Mannheim, 41 as you travel out to 390. Inbound on the Stevenson 41 from 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. 22 on the Dan Ryan inbound 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. Oakbrook an accident, Route 83 in Butterfield. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast, a cooler day ahead. Rain and maybe a thunderstorm. High of 72. Currently 72. Next news at 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by CharlesEquipment.com. Keeping you powered up no matter what the conditions. CharlesEquipment.com.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560 The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So yesterday, BLM Brandon announced his choice for Chicago's next police superintendent. That is current CPD Counterterrorism Bureau Chief Larry Snelling. Snelling, a graduate of Inglewood High School. So coming from inside the department, obviously.
Yeah.
The reaction I got from some friends on the force, and I'm not saying this is consensus opinion, but just some views of rank and file.
Yeah, what did your friends say?
Is that, he was merit all the way up, but he truly cares about officers and should be good for morale if the mayor lets him run the department. He cares about the officers.
Yep.
And he sort of gets what's happening.
I know the FOP brass was pushing for Larry Snelling.
So, okay. But of course, the key point is to the extent that he's allowed to do policing, because, whether it's Gary McCarthy or Eddie Johnson or David Brown or Larry Snelling, if you have a problem with the fifth floor, then you have a problem operating the police department, don't you? If you are not given the political backing and the constitutional tools that you need to enhance peace on the streets, then it really doesn't matter much. So what are the prospects of that? For more on all of the above, we're pleased to be joined by Eugene Roy, who is retired chief of detectives for the Chicago Police Department. Eugene, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Good morning. My pleasure to be here with you again.
What's your assessment of the selection of Larry Snelling?
I would agree with everything you just said. He's done an exemplary job in the command ranks. One of the toughest jobs in the police department is being a district commander, especially being a district commander in a high crime area such as Englewood. When he was the district commander in the 7th District, Englewood, he showed that he can handle both the community relations aspect of the job as well as the policing aspect of the job. And to pick up on a point that you stressed from your conversations with your sources, he cares about people. I've seen the way he interacts with people who've just suffered losses, especially the families of officers who have been seriously injured or who have been killed in the line of duty. Those qualities will serve him well.
Yeah, but is Mayor Johnson going to be running the police department, or is he going to let Snelling do it?
That's an interesting question, and that's something that only time is going to tell. We don't have a crystal ball. We can't see how that's going to play out. Again, I agree with your assessments in the opening. If the mayor supports superintendent designee Snelling and gives him the tools and the resources he needs, as well as gives him the political backing he needs, taking on some of the issues that the police department and the community at large are facing, especially the lack of prosecutions by our state's attorney's office. If the mayor backs him and gives him that support, he'll do well. If he doesn't get that support, then the other side of the coin, as you pointed out, is going to come to pass.
Well, it just seems hard to imagine how it works out between the two of them, or the three of them, if you include Kim Foxx, because, Brandon Johnson refers to people engaged in violence and mayhem as kids making silly decisions. So, if you have that perspective and you're otherwise allied with Kim Foxx, who is a decarceration, a defund and decarceration type of person, I don't know how that, Larry Snelling or anybody else makes that police department work.
Well, first of all, let's look at the political situation. Kim Foxx has announced she's not running for re-election, so she's basically out of the question right now. She's been relegated to a supporting role instead of a starring role.
Yeah.
What's going to matter is the personal chemistry between Superintendent Snelling and the mayor. That is going to make or break that relationship. If they're at loggerheads, it's not going to work. If they do have some sort of a better relationship, whether it may be tolerance or it may be, hey, we're on board. We're the best of, we get along well. We see that we share the same visions. If it's at that point, things are going to work well.
And so, from your perspective, I mean, he was the counterterrorism bureau chief, but,
he's done a lot.
I mean, I guess
Deputy chief of Area 2.
As you're saying, being a district commander means something. I mean, some of these titles, I don't know if it means something or if it's just to enhance your pension. Sometimes, I mean, I just being honest with these political sinecures in every agency. But is Snelling somebody to say, look, repeat violent offenders, particularly in the forthcoming no bail regime that we're going to live in, we have to hold them over. They have to be prosecuted. They have to be put away for a long time. We can talk about systemic correlations to violent crime all you want, and we can talk about root causes, but in the immediacy, we have to remove repeat violent predators from the streets, and there's just no compromise. There's no middle ground there.
No, absolutely not. There's absolutely no common sense behind the Safety Act. The function of government, one of the most important functions of government, is to provide a safe and secure community for the people who elected them and who they serve. And that factor needs to come back into the equation.
But is Larry Snelling going to promote that viewpoint, is my question.
To what extent he's going to promote or not promote that, again, that's going to be contingent upon his chemistry with the mayor and with the other elected officials that he'll soon be making relationships with. Hopefully there is some sort of impasse, or there is some sort of resolution to this. It can't continue at the impasse that it's at right now.
Well, over the weekend, we had a mass shooting on Division in LaSalle. Last night, we had 11 people robbed at gunpoint in a 2-hour crime spree on the northwest side. Over the weekend as well, we got some department stores hit on Michigan Avenue again. One that's going viral is this Nordstrom in California. But do police... my understanding is that police have a handle on this, but I'm not sure if it's been communicated to the public. Because I was talking to a retailer on Michigan Avenue over the weekend. He's like, when my store got hit, I talked to police. I said, we know exactly who did it. This is a crew. This is organized crime. They hit X number of stores here. They're connected to a similar crew on the West Coast that hit X number of stores there and actually killed a guy. We know who. So it's like, as usual, like police know. And I'm not sure it's being communicated. Like, this is not just like random knuckleheads or silly kids doing crime spree holdups because they are unrestrained. This is organized crime, and I don't know if the political leadership of the city even understands that, much less the residents.
That's a complicated scenario, especially when you have interstate crews like that. That's where the federal government gets involved, and it gets tricky. And it takes on another dimension of paperwork and coordinating investigations and trying to get things done, navigating through the federal law enforcement system and the federal court system.
But when you see something like that cosmetic store on Michigan Avenue got that hit this weekend, I mean, you see that and you see this is organized crime. This is obviously not a bunch of people that are looking to have a makeup chop shop somewhere. This is organized.
Right, it is. And, one of the problems that we have in addressing that, it's something that's not going to be addressed to a great extent by having more cops on the beat. That calls for having investigations, having seasoned, experienced investigators who know how to put together complex cases. The problem is the Chicago Police Department only has 7% of its sworn personnel assigned as detectives. Now, that's compared to New York City and L.A., which both have 14 to 15% of their sworn personnel serving in detective assignments. You need to have the right people working on those cases.
Yeah, but I mean, what Mayor Johnson said when he was, campaigning to be mayor, said that he's going to move over, 200 patrol officers to detectives. Any movement on that yet?
I haven't seen any. The thing I wanted to point out about my earlier statement is, New York and LA have twice the number of people working as detectives, that while their violent crime is a fraction of what ours is. Another thing to consider, even moving 200 people over to detectives, it takes training. I mean, you're talking about a 4 to 8 week training course, and then they have to adapt to their new roles, and they're not going to be experienced. You can't expect 200 new detectives, as experienced and educated as they may be, to have that experience base, so they're not going to be effective immediately.
How did the ranks of detectives and CPD atrophy like they have?
It's a number of factors. First of all, the city has never funded the adequate number of detective positions. That's the biggest thing right there. And there were big hiring surges in the late '80s, the early '90s. And, my group from the late 80s, we're all retired now. The people from the 90s are coming up on their retirement dates. And, it's just a normal attrition. And it is aggravated to some degree by people that are leaving the police department.
One other item, this is interesting, and this is a report. I can't confirm this, but Chicago Contrarian reported over the weekend that migrants, people in this country illegally in the 10th district, registering false police reports asserting they're victims of crime. No locations are being given for the crimes, the alleged crimes. This is a hustle to expedite the issuance of a visa, specifically a U visa, which is given to victims of crime. The Chicago police being compelled, because we're a sanctuary city, don't you know, to be on the front lines of this migrant issue that the city's political leadership is grappling with. Your thoughts on that?
Well, that story is just breaking, so it's really early. It's premature to comment on whether or not those reports are real. There have been allegations in the past that people have, reported themselves as victims of crimes when they weren't, in order to expedite the visa process. That's something you have to look at on a case-by-case basis.
And just using police departments as migrant shelters, just police having to concern themselves with dealing with the migrant issue that the city asked for, as it were.
That is something that should have never happened. The fault for that, if we're going to point fingers here, goes back to the Lightfoot administration, which failed to make proper preparations for these people coming into the city. You can't have people living in the lobby of a police station. It's not fair to the police. It's not fair to the community that those officers serve. And lastly, it's not fair to the migrants. We have McCormick Place standing empty, which was turned into an emergency hospital for COVID that was never used.
Yeah, you have
turn it back. I know. I've been saying that since the beginning.
You have J.B. Pritzker's residence too. That could house a couple hundred. Eugene Roy, retired chief of detective, Chicago Police Department. Gene, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Take care.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy on the AM 560 The Answer mobile app. Just text the word app to 64636 to download the app today.
There are more than 50 million people enslaved in the world today. Most of them are women and children.
They lock you in cellars or in rooms with no windows. 95% of girls that are born in the brothels remain trapped in the brothels for the rest of their lives.
SOS International is working to make freedom possible for these women and kids. And with your help, today can be the day another victim comes into freedom.
By the hundreds, we are saving those girls and bringing them to a secure place. A place that is a safe home for them to grow in.
Just $150 makes freedom possible for a trafficking victim. It provides shelter, food, counseling, everything they need to start a new life. Make freedom possible now.
Visit 560theanswer.com/SOS.
Every day that goes by is another day of suffering and abuse. But you can change it now. You can make today the day of freedom and rescue. Learn how you can bring freedom now at 560theanswer.com/SOS.
All right. When you give your body the best possible fuel, guess what? You have more energy. You're stronger. You think more quickly. And that's where Balance of Nature comes in, because it's fruits and veggies in a capsule, 31 whole fruits and vegetables. I take 6 capsules a day. That's a recommended dosage. 3 fruits, 3 vegetables. Crack them open in warm water, and voila. Maximum nutrition, real food, real science, real nutrition. So get the nutrition your body needs, because you're not eating enough fruits and veggies on your own. The number to call is 800-246-8751, 800-246-8751. Be sure to use discount code Chicago. First-timers get free shipping and 35% off their order. And also, you can go online to balanceofnature.com, but be sure to use discount code Chicago.
Rick here from Forever Remodeling. You probably heard me talk about how our unique design-build process removes the normal problems of hiring a design and construction company separately. But just don't take my word for it. Listen to these customer reviews. Kelly W. says, from consultation to design to construction, my remodel flowed seamlessly. Adity J says, we were thrilled to have a full-service remodeling firm take all the guesswork out of our project. And Caesar V says, Forever Remodeling made what could have been a very stressful project extremely easy for us. They finished on time and did amazing work. Kitchens, bathrooms, basements, additions, whole house remodeling, whatever you need, our start-to-finish process delivers stunning results without the hassles, headaches, and stress. For a free consultation, call Forever Remodeling at 847-809-3355 or visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number foreverremodeling.com.
Guys, a lot of people talking about testosterone, but do your homework and be sure to go to a provider you can trust. I trust my friends at Low T Center, where I get my levels checked in half of the past 8 years. At Low T Center, they make it easy. You walk in, take a simple blood test, and with their on-site lab, you'll get your results back in about 25 minutes. If you've been feeling tired, grumpy, notice weight gain, and loss of muscle mass, these could all be signs of low testosterone levels. Low T Center is not your typical doctor's office where you have a long wait. It's concierge medicine exclusively for men. They have affordable and convenient options for treatment, including physician-monitored self-inject treatments that ship directly to you each month, so there's no need to drive to the center for weekly visits. And right now, Low T Center is only $25 to get your T level tested, with results back in about 25 minutes, so what are you waiting for? Log on now to lowtcenter.com to book your appointment online. That's lowtcenter.com. Tell them Dan Prof sent you when you do. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
Sean Thompson here for my friend Tom Fortino of Alpha Wealth. There aren't many people who would knowingly leave their job to start another job for a 30% cut in pay. And yet, people do it every day when they enter retirement. Why enter the exciting new chapter of your life with less money? Why trade the stress of work for more stress in retirement? Tom Fortino of Alpha Wealth Group can help. Just call Tom at 630-934-1855 for your complimentary, customized retirement. It addresses many of the big questions you may have, like what to do about Social Security, managing your investments, and how to create income you can never outlive. You can downsize your house, but don't downsize your lifestyle. Get a complimentary, customized retirement plan at 630-934-1855 or visit alphawealthgroup.com. That's alphawealthgroup.com.
Advisory services through Retirement Wealth Advisors, LLC, RWA, an SEC registered investment advisor. RWA and Alpha Wealth Group are independent of each other. Insurance and annuities offered through Alpha Wealth Group, licensed in Illinois.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank, a bank where relationships still matter. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hey all, Jim Carr here. I am the owner of Carr Machine and Tool in Elk Grove Village and loyal customer of Signature Bank. As a second-generation owner, I knew I had to shift from operating as an old-school machine shop to what I can proudly say is now one of the fastest-growing aerospace manufacturing facilities in the region. Signature Bank was there every step of the way through our expansion efforts, including financing our new state-of-the-art facility. Their valuable industry expertise and constant communication throughout the construction process made our vision possible. Many thanks to Signature Bank for supporting Carr Machine and Tool. You you set the bar high for other banks.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Want to learn how Signature Bank can help turn your business vision into reality? Visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
I ran into the Score's Matt Spiegel over the weekend. The Matt Spiegel who told Amy Jacobson not to show her face in this town, among other things.
Do you think I could take him, by the way?
I'll tell you what happened, and you tell me if I acted appropriately. 8:38.
But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
71 degrees at 8:31 on AM 560, The Answer. There is a flood watch up for much of our listening area. That begins at 10 a.m. The deadliest wildfire in modern U.S. history has claimed at least 96 lives. Maui Police Chief John Pelletier.
We're going as fast as we can. But just so you know, 3%, that's what's been searched with the dogs, 3%. We got 12 more dogs on the way today. We just made that. I made that request. FEMA made that happen. They're on their way.
The director of FEMA is on scene now and says Hawaii's wildfires are like a scene from an apocalyptic movie.
It's absolutely heartbreaking to just see an entire community that is no longer there.
At the time, FEMA said about 3% of the destroyed area have been covered. That will increase today. The chair of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, highly critical over the weekend of President Biden's deal with Iran to free 5 American prisoners.
$6 billion that now is going to go into Iran and prop up their proxy war terror operations and their nuclear bomb aspirations.
Texas Republican Congressman Michael McCall. Niger's mutinous soldiers say they will prosecute deposed President Mohamed Bazoum for high treason. However, they're open to dialogue with West African nations to resolve the crisis. Economically in the region, U.S. Steel Sunday said it's rejecting a $7.3 billion buyout from rival Cleveland-Cliffs and was reviewing strategic alternatives after receiving several unsolicited offers. Pittsburgh-based U.S. Steel said it rejected the offer because Cleveland-Cliffs was pushing it to accept terms without due diligence. Police are still looking for the suspect in the fatal shooting of a teen in Highland Park. It happened around 11:30 yesterday morning. Larry Snelling is Mayor Brandon Johnson's selection for Chicago's next police superintendent. Johnson tabbed Snelling on Sunday. Officials with the United Center say Saturday night's concert there was cut short for safety reasons. There were reports of an active shooter during the concert. No confirmation that ever existed. However, the department is investigating several other incidents, including theft of merchandise. A firefighter critically hurt in a Norwood Park blaze on Friday this morning is showing signs of improvement. According to a social media update from Chicago Fire, that firefighter remains in serious but stable condition. And religions and spiritual leaders from around the world, more than 200 different faiths, are meeting in Chicago this week for the Parliament of World Religions. The conference actually began at the Chicago World's Fair in 1893. Cubs lost to Toronto 11-4. Sox were belted by the Brew Crew 7-3. The news service of Fox Valley Coins currently buying all gold and silver bars, coins, and silver dollars, rare, date, proof, and mini sets. Visit foxvalleycoins.com. A check of traffic and weather is on the way next on AM 560.
Relief factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. Relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. be the next success story.
Inflation is pushing up the cost of just about everything, but life insurance actually costs less today than it did a few years ago. Now is the time to get the insurance you need. Call SelectQuote and we'll help you save more than 50% on term life insurance. You can get up to $2 million in same-day coverage with no medical exam.
Call SelectQuote at 1-800-646-9595 or go to SelectQuote.com now. That's 1-800-646-9595. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
Hi, we're Comparion Insurance Agency. Right now you're thinking, Comparion? Never heard of them. We know. We also know that you have no idea that Comparion Insurance agents are local and provide expert advice. So to help it stick, we're going to say local agent 4 times in the next 15 seconds. Ready? Go. Our local agents know you and your community. Our local agents offer insurance from top carriers. Our local agents have minty fresh breath.
Find us at ComparionInsurance.com. Comparion Insurance Agency. Local agents, expert advice.
And there's number 4.
Wireless headphones. That'll be $200.
I'll use my Capital One Quicksilver card.
Now that's a hit. You used the Capital One Quicksilver card, which makes you the hero of every purchase. With Quicksilver, you earn unlimited 1.5% cash back on every purchase everywhere.
I wanted running music, but unlimited 1.5% cash back is pretty heroic.
Good instincts. Every hero needs a theme song. The Capital One Quicksilver card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Hey, this is Brant along with Sherry here. And so you hear me doing these spots for MediShare, and Sherry actually helps me with them. I get people actually in person saying, okay, Brant, for real, do you recommend this? Like, yeah, for real, I actually do. I'm not just saying stuff. So family, friends ask me about it. I'm like, yes, you should look into this. It's really a great option for a lot of people.
That's what I tell people my experience has been. MediShare has been fantastic for me.
Yeah.
It's so different from health insurance in a lot of great ways, honestly.
Yeah, and see, a lot of people who've switched tell me that. It's the same reaction. They're very, very happy with it, and it gives them peace of mind and saves them a lot of money.
I would tell people, look into it.
Yep. So really, for reals, if you want to talk to them, they're great to talk to. I think you'll be impressed and happy you looked into it. So you do the phone number. I'm actually tired of doing all the phone numbers.
Okay.
Call now.
844-41-BIBLE. That's 844-41-BIBLE. 844-41-BIBLE.
Nice job.
Thanks.
This is Mike Gallagher. Sign up today for an unforgettable experience in Israel this October. Dennis Prager and I are traveling to the Holy Land on the Stand With Israel tour with our trusted partner, Inspiration Cruises and Tours. This is a trip of a lifetime. You don't want to miss it. Register today before it's too late. Visit standwithisraeltour.com, standwithisraeltour.com, or call 855-565-5519, 855-565-5519. And together, let's stand with Israel.
This hourly segment is brought to you by HealthQuest Radio with Dr. David Kolbaba. Saturday mornings at 11. Visit healthquestradio.com.
8:38. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time is a service of America's Best Contacts and Eyeglasses. It's a lesson in back-to-school savings. America's Best offers a comprehensive eye exam, 2 pairs of glasses, from just $79.95. Don't wait. Book an exam today at americasbest.com, and you can always see the store for details. Right now on the Kennedy inbound, it's 50 minutes. O'Hare to the Burns Circle interchange. Aiken 51 390 to the old post office. Stevenson 32 from 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. And a manageable 18 right now on the Ryan inbound, 95th into the Circle. I-57 outbound, accident just occurred. 2 left lanes blocked between 119th and the Cal-Sag Channel. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast for this back-to-school week. Cooler with periods of rain and a thunderstorm. You can watch for flooding too, high 72. 72 right now. Next news at 9. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So over the weekend, there was a Break the Ice event at Olympia Fields for, in advance of the BMW this week. And by the way, I mean, after that great finish at the St. Jude's and Lucas Glover coming out of a decade in the wilderness to win 2 weeks in a row, boy, you want to see the top 50 golfers in the world play at Olympia Fields starting Thursday through Sunday, because I'm telling you, as it always has been, remember the finish between Rahm and DJ back in 2020, 4 under. It was a playoff at 4 under in the U.S. Open back in 2003. Jim Furyk won, I think, 7 under. I think both times there was only 3 guys under par. And the rough on the North Course, I mean, it's like hitting out a wire. You thought the rough in Memphis for the St. Jude Classic was tough. You haven't seen anything yet, so definitely encourage you to come out to Olympia Fields for the BMW, where I'm still a member, and it was a member-only event. I'm still a member for now. And
I'm like, are you sure you want to tell this story?
Whatever.
Well, you know what? They
you
should
just
have
gotta
an
do it.
allegiance to you because you're a member and have been for years.
Well, so here's the thing. So
it's a good story, everybody. Getting close to the radio.
This Break the Ice event is members only, and you get to get some of the swag before the masses get to get the swag and all that stuff. And nice event, celebrate all the good work that was done leading up to the event. The a lot of work, a lot of members, all that stuff, staff and so forth. So there's a part of the event, you have a toast, and people get up, president of the club gets up and thanks everybody, so on and so forth, and then they have a band that plays while you enjoy cocktails and whatnot. So it turns out this band, some cover band, and Mike Scott knows exactly where I'm going with this.
Yes, it is true.
I don't even know this. What's it called? Like Coverosaurus or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
I
probably,
can't remember. It's Coverosaurus, yes.
Yeah, I'm probably massacring the name. But anyway,
massacre the name.
Matt Spiegel from The Score is the lead singer of this cover band that's playing at
Olympia Fields.
Break the Ice event at Olympia Fields. So
there was some breaking of the ice, folks.
Well, so I see that, and look, here's my philosophy on these sorts of things. I mean, I guess we should remind people of the backstory in case they've forgotten. So these guys I've never heard of before until their producer made some ridiculous attack on Colin Cowherd for saying another sportscaster on Colin Cowherd's show for saying Chicago was more violent than Iraq, and they got all righteous and indignant. It's you don't say that. No, get Chicago out of your mouth.
Get Chicago out your mouth.
Yeah,
that was the whole thing. And the T-shirts that say that too.
So the point is, Homer sports hacks, dorks who couldn't play sports, who comment on premier athletes for 3 or 4 hours a day. I mean, I'm talking about these guys. Obviously, you have some former athletes that are sportscasters too. I'm just talking about these 3, and it's sort of a profile. And they think they're smart, and they think they know what's going on. They think they know what time it is in the city, but they're just mindless homers. And I've always said about these guys, they're such wannabe members of the political press corps. They want to be taken seriously. And so I just used this rant I happen to see on Twitter to make a point I've made many times about the sports press corps in Chicago and other big cities. And then so these 3 knobs, Matt Spiegel, Danny Pankins, and Shane Reardon, who do some show on The Score, they took up after me and then you as well. They might as well throw you in.
Yeah, but they said some disgusting comments that we have here about your mother.
Well, this was Shane Reardon, the producer.
The guy ran for governor. He's old. He's got money. So I mean, are we punching up, down? I don't know.
No, we're punching down.
Okay,
I would
he
never
is below
consider
us.
that person above me.
Okay, no,
I would never consider him
of
above
course
either of you.
I just didn't know who he.
Never said I was.
He has money because he takes it from the very, very rich who want to make certain things happen, and then he fails to make it happen.
Yeah.
But still takes their money. That he is 100% a grifter and a charlatan and a con man, pushing talking points and media buttons that we're helping him push a little.
That's my,
because now he can play this and push back and stuff. And this is the conundrum, right? Whether to give these bits of idiocy any light of day. So we give it a little light and then say exactly what it is.
Well, so he doesn't know who I am.
No. The irony is that you are nuanced clearly, but if anything, you're a libertarian. On some levels,
I lean more left than right, but I'm
you lean
for
right.
no government.
Yeah, I guess. Well, that was the political stuff.
Congratulations to Dan and Amy. All right, they got their 15 minutes on a radio station that people listen to. That's good. It's got to be nice to feel relevant again. I don't know if you guys, your brain is still firing enough when you can remember the last time you were relevant, but I guess we'll just say if you come at the Kings, you best not miss. I hate them both so much. That is abhorrent.
That was
they
Danny
are horrible,
Pankins.
horrible people.
I like your
and
offer,
frankly,
though, Shane.
I'm really glad they don't live here. Does Amy live here? Because she should move.
Yeah, I don't know. She better not show her face.
Yeah, that is.
You like my offer of having sex with Dan Proft's mom?
that was good.
That was exactly the right level of brow.
No, so that was.
They repeated that 3 times that they wanted to
That
have
was
sex with
Spiegel.
her.
Yeah, Dan, I'll have sex with your mother. Dan Proft, you bring your mother over here. I'll bone her. I don't care, dude. That's a quote from Shane Reardon. So you heard. So Spiegel was, in on all of that. And I mean, I don't. I mean, I'm offended that they call me old. That's the thing that hurts
I know
the most.
you're not old.
But anyway, so Spiegel's up there playing whatever, doing his covers.
Tributasaurus.
Coverosaurus. That was close. Tributasaurus. Fine, get the name right.
Sure.
And doing like whatever popular 80s, 70s, 80s songs.
Right.
Fine, whatever. So I'm just watching and I'm thinking to myself, I don't like to make a scene, and I'm not looking to like exact vengeance. This stuff doesn't consume me, but I'm sort of the mind that when an opportunity presents itself, you should take it.
When did you realize that's Matt?
I knew right away.
You knew right away?
Yeah, because I just looked it up. I think that's one of those 3 knuckleheads from the score, and then I looked it up, and I saw his big fat guy, and that was that guy.
Yeah.
So anyway. And then I looked up the cover source of his name. So I ran the traps. I knew it.
You did the research quickly. Yes.
So a couple of songs go by, and it's like, I think I should say something. And so in between songs, I went up to him and I said, Matt, Dan Proft. He says, oh, hi, Dan.
Oh.
I said,
hi.
I said, you run a big game with your mouth on the score. Do you want to say anything to me directly? Would you like to say anything more about my mother? Would you like to do that? And he said, I didn't say, Shane said, I said, you know what? You're a coward. I think I said fracking coward, but not saying fracking. You're a coward. You're a big talker who doesn't know the first thing about what he's saying. And then you go to a place that nobody would go to who's a decent person. And you pretend that all these things, and then there's other guys in the band start chiming in. I'm just like, just shut up. I'm talking to him, and so I said, I'm happy to wait until your set is done, and you can meet me in the parking lot, and we can talk about it there if you like. He's like, no, I don't want any part of that. No, I said, I know you don't want any part of it because you're an effing peahat. That's who you are. You're an effing peahat. And so are those knuckleheads that work with you. Shane Reardon, I'll give him my address. I asked for your address, Shane. I still don't have it. Come down. I'll meet you at the score at the offices before or after the show, whenever you guys want to meet. So you talk about it face to face. So if I go after somebody like these guys, I'll do it face to face. Anything I say, all the ridiculing of Triple Threat and Jelly Belly, if they were on the show, do you think I'd give them any quarter? Think I'd treat them any differently? I would not. But these guys, I just want people to know what rank peahats, these big, tough-talking sports guys like those 3 knuckleheads are. And, maybe, arguably, some members said to me, not the time and place, but you know what? People didn't understand. Some members were like, what's going on? I'm like, don't, just none of your business. Stay out of it. But if people want to know what's going on, and because I made a bit of a spectacle, maybe they look up, maybe he has to explain it. Well, what was that all about? And maybe what lies he tells, maybe they look it up and they see what they actually said, and then you make a decision about people like Matt Spiegel yourself. So I don't know if I did the right thing or not. I can understand the argument, wrong time, wrong place, but, sometimes you have to take the opportunities where they present themselves. And you also have to hold people accountable for what they say. And remember, after Shane Reardon was pulled from the air for a week and they came back, Shane Reardon apologized to those two about what he did to the show, even though they were party to it. You just heard all three of them yucking it up and offering all sorts of ridiculous ad hominem. The ridiculous ad hominem, we're big boys and girls, you can take it. The mother thing, I guess I grew up in an era where if you said something about somebody's mother, then you best be prepared to defend it. And you know what I mean by that. That's the era I grew up in. And so all the other stuff about my politics and my success and how old I am and all that, I don't care about any of that. Armadillo skin. Even the Amy stuff. It was mean to bring you into it, but that's just that just goes with the territory. The mother stuff, it's just I grew up in an era when that was a line you didn't cross. And for me, it still is. And for them, it's not. And so we have a difference of opinion, and I wanted to express that difference of opinion we have. And I think a lot of people have a difference of opinion with them, which is why they got such negative press about it, and which is why they sort of cowered and slunk back into their hole and then gave the sort of, we apologize to each other, now let's move on kind of a kumbaya moment.
They never apologized to us. They just
Well, of course not.
apologized to each other. And the
Of course
producer
not.
was suspended for 3 days.
Of course not. And so I wanted people to know that this guy is a huge peahat. He's a coward. And he fits a profile in Chicago media, including Sports Press Corps, particularly on that show, on the score in general, I guess. And so I don't know. I don't know if I acted appropriately or not. Maybe I'll be checking my mailbox for a letter from the club. But
I'm surprised
we'll
that
see.
the club, do they have their heads in the sand? Do they know
They don't
the
know.
history between?
Well, they don't know. I'm sure they
that
didn't
guy
know. They're
and
just
you?
looking at like I'm sure they're just looking at like an affordable, easy peasy, band to entertain members for an event. I'm not blaming the club for that, and I'm not asking anybody to prosecute my personal, conflicts either. I mean, I'm not. That has nothing to do with the club. It's just an opportunity to address something that I think should be addressed. I think there are things that should be addressed straight away, and I think people have to be held accountable for what they say, much like I have to be held accountable, and I am held accountable for what I say. You have to defend it. You either have to walk away from it and apologize for it, or you defend it. So I'll defend what I say and apologize if I cross the line.
A lot of text messages supporting you, Dan.
Anyway,
the opportunity was there. I just would have loved to have seen it.
Yeah. And he had an opportunity to defend himself, and he chose to retreat. Of course he did, because what they said is not defensible, and they know it.
Why didn't he just say he was sorry?
Because we're both two of the worst people in the world. They said that too, so they can't apologize to the worst people in the world. Fine. I mean, I am completely indifferent to what they think about me. I'm simply saying, there's lines. That's one of them. He crossed it. And I think you have to hold people accountable when they cross those lines. And, it could have gotten uglier. I was ready for it to get uglier. He's a coward. And that's where it's at, as far as I'm concerned. But I would have regretted had I not confronted him. Right. Because I just don't think you don't look for confrontation. But when there are lines crossed, sometimes it's demanded, and I think that was demanded at that time. So maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. But I'm pretty glad I did it.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
A storm is on the horizon, and you need to keep the lights on no matter what. Your business relies on the power being on 24/7. It's the lifeblood of your data and computer systems. Weather-related outages from the power company are not acceptable. Your need for a source of power that's reliable 24/7, along with round-the-clock service that can dispatch technicians to your site immediately, is mission critical. Your business needs Charles Equipment Energy Systems on speed dial. These are the big boys, not residential residential or solar, but reliable industrial generators for emergency backup or events. When you need more than a 100-foot extension cord plugged into a small engine generator, call Charles Equipment Energy Systems. They keep the lights on with rental generators for job sites or power outages. A storm is on the horizon. Plan ahead. Call now to prepare generators for storms and potential power outages. Call 630-834-6000, 630-834-6000, or charlesequipment.com.
The guy ran for governor. What? He's old. He's got money.
Well, stop saying I'm old. By the way, Matt Spiegel is older than me. Somebody just texted. So
really,
if I'm old, he's old.
All right. Doing it right now, taking balance of nature. Not getting enough fruits and veggies on my own, and I'm going to have to take them to go because look at the time. It's almost time to leave. But it's never enough time to take care of yourself and be assertive about yourself and take charge of your temple, which is your body, and get your balance of nature. 31 different whole fruits and vegetables, real food, real nutrition. So get your health back. Get the nutrition your body craves. 800-246-8751, 800-246-8751. Use discount code Chicago or go online to balanceofnature.com. Discount code Chicago.
If you have a pension, you might not realize your lump sum payment changes every year when the plan is recalculated. Rising interest rates can actually cause your lump sum amount to drop in value. It might make sense to retire earlier than you planned, or you may end up with less money than you were expecting. Call the team at Scott Tucker Solutions to get a free pension analysis for your retirement. 847-474-3888 or go to 560retirement.com. You only have one chance to get this right. Mistakes could cost you tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Make sure you understand all your options before you make a decision with your pension. Call Scott Tucker Solutions and get your free, no-obligation pension analysis now. 847-474-3888 or go to 560retirement.com. That's 560retirement.com. Investment advisory products and services made available through AE Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor.
You've heard Rumpke's Garage commercials in AM 560, so you know they specialize in servicing Sprinters and light-duty diesels. But the experts at Rumpke's also service Isuzu and Chevy low-cab forward trucks. So if you own an Isuzu or Chevy low-cab forward truck but aren't sure where to get it repaired, take it to Rumpke's Garage, your number one dealer alternative for repairs to your Isuzu NPR, Isuzu F-Series, or Chevy low-cab forward truck. Whether gas or diesel, your truck is the lifeline of your business. That's why Rumpke's Garage offers free loaners while your truck is being serviced. They'll even pick up and deliver for your convenience. Rumpke's Garage has the factory scan tool to properly diagnose Isuzu and Chevy low-cab forward trucks. Their commitment to your business is backed with a complimentary maintenance plan and free 2-year warranty. So go to rumpkesgarage.com to learn more about their specialization, that is, in Isuzu and Chevy low-cab forward trucks and schedule your appointment today. That's Remkes, REMKES, garage.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
Guess who's back tomorrow? Justin Kosick. The longest bachelor party in the history of the world. I mean, weren't they supposed to be one night and now they're 4-day events?
They got kicked out of Top Golf.
They did?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
No. There's a story tomorrow.
Oh, boy.
How do you know that? You have them on speed dial?
Did they run into Ken Jeong by any chance?
I don't know. Maybe.
Oh, my gosh.
Did they get face tattoos?
Oh, no.
They dove into a pool, apparently, but that's all I know.
Really?
Oh, yeah, you're not supposed to. I've been to that Vegas Top Golf. They have great pools.
Were they running around with Mike Tyson's tiger? I hope not.
Maybe. The strip will never be the same.
Oh, boy. All right. Can't wait.
Oh, yeah. Stay tuned tomorrow. Join us at 5 a.m. Thanks to George Hoffman, who's been filling in for Justin, and to Quinn McCarthy, who's back from his vacation. Now let's head into that newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
A teen is dead after a shooting in Highland Park, and a firefighter injured on the north side improving. WIND, Chicago News Time 9.
They've only searched a small fraction of the wildfire ruins for victims. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. So Hawaii Governor Josh Green says he expects they'll find more bones and human remains in the 2,700 homes and other structures that burned down.
It is a harrowing sight in Maui.
So far, 96 people are confirmed dead, more than in any wildfire in the U.S. in more than a century.
We will build back together. We will find out what we could have done to prevent such loss of life.
Fox's Will Kane is in Maui. and says people are upset they weren't warned about the fire that day.
Fire hit Lahaina at 4:45 p.m. By 5:30 p.m., so 45 minutes later, you will see videos on Instagram of people in the water. So it tore through town in about 45 minutes. There were 80-mile-an-hour winds pushing that fire. So was there not time? Was the communication system knocked down? Was there no power? Was there no cell service for these sirens to go off?
4 divers who went missing off the North Carolina